crossover is
Crossover dribble. Crossover. Kyrie Irving. Crossover in the lane. One of the most famous crossovers of all time. Behind the back, an ankle breaker on Chris Paul. Crossovers. The crossover continues to evolve.
Crossover is brought to you by Everlow Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlowconcrete.com. You know what? When I think of Midwestern, good parents, salt of the earth people, Joe. Joe just gives me a look.
Absolutely.
Just could do without the shirt, but yeah. Joe.
It's a good shirt.
What's We Are G mean?
We are Green Bay.
No, that was We Are Gretna.
That's what I thought too.
Not Gretna.
Big Gretna guy.
Yeah. He's a huge supporter of the Dragons.
Did you call up your friends in Green Bay and say, did you know there's a high school in Omaha that stole the logo?
And team colors.
Are you going to narc on Gretna?
Got a narc on
Somebody
Georgia.
should call them and say, hey, did you know that there's this high school who's pretty good? And they have stolen your logo.
Oh,
exactly.
Westside got narked on, right?
Yeah, they did
And
from
had to change the
Wisconsin.
W?
But their W.
Well, they had to change it.
Their W has been changed.
Yep.
That's
Remember
right.
when Snyder went to K-State and had the Power Cat?
Mhm.
And then you started to see other schools?
Yep.
And then K-State was like throwing the hammer down on schools?
For
in the middle
using
of Texas for using the Power Cat?
Yeah, there's so many schools that have the Power Cat.
Hell, the Missouri Tigers have the same sound effect.
Do you think the most
Tiger and a cat.
What do you think the most used high school mascot is in America? Just spitballing.
Tigers?
Tigers,
Wildcats is
yeah.
gotta be pretty close.
Wildcats,
Wildcat,
Tigers, I
Eagles.
think would be up there.
Eagles.
Yeah.
A lot of Eagles.
I
When did we
I like when
decide-
people get a little creative, like Gretna East with
Same here.
with the Griffins.
But so when did we decide that everybody was going to be Wildcats, Tigers, or Eagles?
You know what's-
why did we decide on those?
You
Why
know
did
what
we
I-
decide on like clowns or something? You know,
I think actually a sneaky one is probably Titans.
There's probably a lot of.
I think that's a sneaky popular one too.
There's definitely a lot of Titans.
I thought you were going to say, how come we can't go back to the Millard South Indians?
People forget. People.
It
Forget.
used to
don't.
be a thing.
Why did they have to change to the Guardians?
I was a Millard South Indian.
You should change them to the Guardians.
Then I was a Millard West Wildcat.
Do you call?
Change Millard South, go from the Patriots now to the
Yeah,
Guardians.
the Guardians.
I
Millard
stayed
South
over at
Guardians.
the Miller North Mustangs.
Miller North Mustangs.
Well, okay, so
There's all these maps now. They're great. Have you seen these maps?
Have you seen the
Yes.
Texas one?
These maps are great.
yes,
I love these maps.
there are a lot of schools in Texas.
There are so many schools in Texas.
lots and lots of schools.
Not so much
Millions
over
and millions.
here, more,
More right.
over here. Yeah.
I don't know
Trying to say
why
West
I've
Texas?
never researched this or asked, but with Millard South had a change from the Indians to the Patriots.
Yep, 99.
Bellevue East is still the Chieftain.
That's right. There's
Yeah, they are.
there's been very few cancellations in
Yep.
Nebraska high school athletics.
Trying to think, is there another?
Now, a lot of those probably wiped out when they did all the co-ops,
Yeah.
Like, I bet there was some pretty raunchy stuff going on out there.
Some real offensive stuff
I
there.
bet there was pretty disgusting stuff going on out
Like the
there in
Whippets?
the 80s. Yeah. No, those are good.
The Whippets are good.
Those are fun.
I bet the Whippets is very rare.
Oh, definitely. That's probably a one of one.
It
honestly.
could be.
The
my,
Swedes,
yep, there's that.
Gothenburg.
My wife's alma mater in Freeport, Illinois, the Pretzels.
The Pretzels.
Yeah, they're the Freeport Pretzels.
That's pretty sick.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Do they do like an alternate jersey where they're like pretzels with cheese,
I don't know.
pretzels with salt,
Let's ask her.
pretzels with
With
mustard?
peanut butter.
Hey, so why
I
don't you
love a
think in this
mustard.
state? So you have the Ames Little Cyclones, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
you
Oh, yeah.
have
Yep.
The Junior Jays?
we do have that.
The Creighton Prep Junior Jays.
Mhm.
You have I think it might be just be Iowa City High is the Hawks.
Oh,
Like
you're
the
saying
little-
we need a little Huskers?
How come there
Little
nobody
Red?
in the state has ever had like a nickname that is
Yeah.
after Nebraska?
I just think that's probably
You're
a
right.
mutually agreed upon.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Like if you can't have it, none of us can.
yeah, you can't do that, and you can't use. Now, I believe there are some schools who use the iteration of Nebraska's fight song.
Yes.
yes,
Yes, I have
they do.
heard Hail Varsity. I think a couple ones have
How-
Hail
You
Varsity.
won't
That
hear
would
it-
just
you
be
won't hear it in
odd.
the video
Yeah,
game, but you can go to your
yeah.
favorite high school
Yeah.
game and hear it.
Go to a Class C2 game and you'll probably hear it.
That would just be that, but you would hear Mo Bamba in the video game a lot. By the way, a lot of Mo Bamba. There's some good AC/DC stuff in there too.
But we have not had a
Not Mo Bamba, the old Texas
the
player,
the
but-
Little Huskers.
No Little
No
Huskers.
Little Huskers. Little.
Yeah, the Lil has gone away.
Lil Huskers.
Lil has
Is it
gone
little
away.
or Lil?
Lil.
It would be
He's
Lil.
Lil.
It's Lil.
Well, there was
Yeah.
their
Their enrollment's not very big, so they're little.
There's a youth football team around here, the Lil Vikes.
Yeah, Little Vikes,
Yeah.
which is great because that's still going on.
Nobody uses.
They were around when I was playing.
We
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have like the junior Huskers.
No, we did not.
No,
Is that
we
like
have
a-
Junior Mavs.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, is that like an agreement?
Yeah,
It might be.
I would
use
say that's an
Huskers with
unwritten rule.
Youth
Yeah.
teams?
You build a new
So-
high school in this state, you cannot be the Huskers.
You know how awesome that would have been? So when I played Little League football before high school, I was on a select team with Eric Crouch, and we played the North Omaha Bears, and they were studs, and they had the full-on Chicago Bears uniform. It was awesome.
That's
Think if there
badass.
was like a Little Huskers or the Junior Huskers, and they had the full-on red and white, like everything was exactly to a T.
We played
that would be sweet.
We played the junior Mavs. We played the junior Mavs in middle school football, and I think there was a Huskers.
Was there?
But it wasn't connected to a high school or anything
Yeah.
like that, or connected to any sort of school. It was just that they called themselves the Huskers.
Did that Junior Maverick football team get shut down too?
Maybe just?
No, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know.
No, I'm sorry. That was,
I assume
Good
they're
point,
still
Nick.
going. I don't know where they might play.
did they eliminate that program?
Wow.
I don't know where they might. Yeah, Trev killed it.
How's that school's wrestling program?
Catching strays from the youth.
Just,
Well, look
I
at
want to know what
so
logo they went with.
You did high school sports in Lincoln. Lincoln Northeast N is a little bit after the block end.
Yeah, it's close.
Close.
right?
Yeah, but it's got a rocket in there.
I mean,
and
what
it's
if-
black.
What if-
Don't they go to the skinny end for baseball too? I think they do.
They do. They do.
Yeah,
It's a black hat with
yeah,
a,
with a
like
silver, yeah, skinny
end.
end.
look at the missed opportunity for North Star when they opened up?
Mhm.
They could have been the North Star Huskers. They had the N.
Oh,
Maybe
man.
part of it is like
of the
why we don't
Navigators?
have the little Huskers or the Huskers.
They can
in
brand
high
themselves
school.
as the state's
Well,
high school.
You just don't like you inhibit your ability to sell merchandise. So because everybody already has it, right?
Yeah.
They
That's a
show
good
up to
point.
Yeah.
they show up to the games
Wait.
and Husker stuff is like, okay.
Then you
How
could wear your
much-
alternate reds.
Our booster department is way down because nobody's buying shirts
That's true.
because they already have them.
Oh, that'd be cool if you're Northeast and you go alternate reds, which happen to just be the Nebraska uniform.
No, on the
So-
other side, you could probably get some hand-me-downs from the equipment
You could.
department over at Nebraska.
That would be the relationship.
Yeah.
So Nick's got a Westview baseball hat on.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever?
Big
that's not
Westview guy.
Whataburger, even though it has the.
It does.
Whataburger
It
colors.
actually, yes, there is a little bit of Whataburger.
Have you ever bought a piece of high school gear that was not Central or Millard North?
Bought? I don't think so.
I love, by the way, the old Central hats had the Creighton C, the
Dude.
Cincinnati C, the
Dude.
purple with white.
Hey, they
Love
got-
those.
They got rid of them.
Hey, they
Love
have.
them.
There's a great picture if you walk into Central High School, by the gym. They have kind of like their baseball Hall of Fame
Mhm.
and the late Camaro Barti.
Yep.
They have a picture of him with that hat.
They wore those.
Love that hat.
They wore those
The
all the
purple-
way
the
up
pur-
until I started going to school there.
What changed?
I don't know.
Those were the sweetest high school hats.
We
Yep,
started to
I loved it.
we started to do a whole bunch of different stuff with our
Did
hats.
Creighton?
I don't think so. I don't think
I
so.
mean, it wasn't because theirs was purple.
Yeah.
It was a black
It was
hat
l-
with a purple
Yeah.
bill
It was a Cincinnati Reds hat, but it was purple.
and a purple C.
I had it when I
Incredible
when I
hat.
coached freshman ball there.
They-
I'm so mad that I can't find it anymore.
I think from seeing pictures, they kind of went back to a version of that. It's a bigger C now, but it's like a purple hat with a white C.
It's
But it's not the
yeah.
red C.
Isn't it a
anymore.
little bit more like a black C?
They kind of changed it back to the form of the red C, but it's just
Okay.
bigger and
Oh, okay.
different now. I don't know. They've
that was
tried.
such a cool hat,
They've tried. They-
and it was fitted. That's what I loved about that hat. It was a fitted hat.
one summer at Central, everybody around here has the Legion teams, and then they have the sponsors for the
Yeah.
Legion team.
Yeah.
So we were so many different sponsors. My favorite one, by the way, was Four Aces, which is the convenience store.
I
on
remember that.
24th
Yeah,
and
Four Aces
Leavenworth.
Eagles.
The Four Aces Eagles. We were
Yep.
we were ripping one summer, but there was one summer where we were not able to acquire a sponsorship before the season started, and so our jerseys were blank.
Were you guys?
They were just shirts.
You should have just said us.
They were just shirts, and they were just purple shirts with numbers on
with
the
a
back.
number. You couldn't even just be the Eagles.
I'll tell you what, that was pretty cool.
You couldn't just have something that said Eagles.
Nope, it just was purple.
Where does Central play their home games?
Floyd Park.
Where's that at?
Like 16th and Ames.
All right. Someone was asking me this
They're
yesterday.
like Carter Lake.
Nice.
It not really. No. It's there are some things that go on around the park
Okay.
that
Yeah.
aren't necessarily good for the park.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the old? Someone was asking me this yesterday, and I know it. I just could not think of it. Where they used to play before they built up Boyd. It was you get right off of Martha Street.
Lynch.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then they would have the adult Mexican League play after practices and games.
Mm-hmm.
Like at 8:30. You played like a game at 6 and the lights were still on, and all of a sudden just people in jeans and whatever they're wearing would show up and they just start balling.
Yeah, sometimes they'd want to get in a little early.
Yeah. Lynch,
you guys never
thank
played
you.
at Brown Park?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I played at Brown Park.
Okay.
I played at Brown Park before. It was what it is
Turf.
now, and then
Oh, it's
I've seen
nice.
it now.
It's really nice.
oh,
now.
when
I
they
heard
didn't
back-
have
I
it,
heard back in the
it
day
was
a little
awful.
bit run down,
Oh,
and
it
then
was
all
bad.
the bugs.
Yeah.
Like
The
people just,
that's the big problem with that park.
And you
There's
couldn't park
so
in the parking lot
many
'cause you get hit by a ball.
bugs. There's so many
Yeah.
bugs.
Very, very nice transformation that thing made, though.
No doubt. We got a lot of nice high school facilities, baseball
Mhm.
facilities.
hey, I
around
love
here
what
now.
they've done to Brown Park.
Yeah, it's
Like
awesome.
Coach Stella and everybody else. Pace holds a lot of stuff out there.
Yep.
What they did to that field was so great. Almost where I would like to see, and it might take a little bit, but like a Creighton and Nebraska play a game there.
Yeah.
Sure, that'd be cool. I mean,
That would be cool.
You'd need a couple more seats, probably.
You'd have to
Yeah.
push the fence back a little bit and maybe tell people not to park back there because you would be in
Yeah,
harm's
it's
way.
like we're gonna do fireworks.
And
so
they're one of the sneaky good concession stands too because they got the
Good one.
Italian sausage with the peppers.
yeah.
That's good.
Didn't they do Italian ice down there
Yep,
for a
yes,
while?
they did.
Too? That's
Yep.
great spot.
Mm-hmm.
Have they done
Brown.
anything to?
By the way, area tournaments start this week.
oh really?
Yeah, Friday.
We're already in that time. Have they done anything to Seymour Smith?
Not that I'm aware of. No, to JJ Isaacson Field.
That was a nice. I only played one game there, and that was a nice place.
Hope you weren't in right field.
I was. It was the Colin Orcutt All-Star game, and
You played in that?
well, I was.
Okay.
I was rostered.
Okay.
but
Nice. That's pretty cool.
So my coach called me one day and he was like, "Hey, you made the All-Star team. Good for you. Bad news is you have to graduate that day." So I took part in the opening ceremonies and we
Yeah.
all walked out and everything, took infield, and then I left.
Oh, that's cool though. Good for you.
So I
man.
don't know. Honestly, I've not been back there because the Corn Belt League is playing there.
Yeah.
I've not been back there since Omaha left. But when Omaha was there, because of the grounds crew from Omaha and Herb,
Yeah.
they took care of it.
Herb
It looked
Kupfer.
good.
Yep.
I remember stories of right fielders when they would play teams there, Omaha, that didn't know that there was a gun range
Yeah.
right over the right field
It's-
wall.
It's a bit
Shoot a
confusing.
little blue rock.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you're out there, and the next thing you know, you hear shotgun blast.
Yep.
You're like, should I duck? Should I run?
And they're you're not in any danger.
And you got
And
the
then you-
RC planes flying around too. So you're like, what the hell is happening? It's a big RC plane area too.
Sensory overload.
Yeah.
And then you got the people in the parking lot that are there to play disc golf that are like,
Yep.
whoa.
And the
that's
and
a
the
big
slow pitch
bus.
softball players.
And if you're lucky, you coincide with a slow pitch competitive softball game going on where God knows what you're going to hear and see.
they're all hammering beers in the
Yep.
parking lot
With
They're
their
like, "What's
suitcase
going on
speaker?"
over here.
And they got the suitcase speaker
They
going.
got the suitcase speaker.
Seymour
sure.
Smith also, isn't that where the first Women's College World
Yep.
Series was played?
Yes,
I
it was.
believe that's right. Yeah.
Mhm. Before it moved to Oklahoma City. Just think we could have both
What are
right there in the little diamond down the hill and off of Harrison
Can,
Street.
can you name all the places that UNO played a home baseball
Yes.
game in this town?
Did they just have to play there once?
Sure.
Okay, so Millard West, Millard North, West Side, Westgate, Boys Town, Tal Anderson. Sorry, it's 6.
Yeah.
Seymour,
Seymour.
7.
Yeah.
Am I missing one?
They must have
They-
played
they-
one.
They probably played
Prep.
at a high
They-
school.
They
Yeah,
played
maybe-
at Scott.
Okay, Scott. Okay, that's 8.
They must have played one at prep.
Well, at least
or
they
You
got
know
a
what's
home
sad
now.
is this is all within the last 10 years.
I
too.
know. Yeah.
That's what's sad.
Prior to.
God, I wonder why
Tal,
they couldn't recruit better.
but they were really good.
I have to be
They
missing
were-
one.
They were so good.
They
Yeah,
were-
well, a couple of Division II seasons in there. And then
Yeah.
at Seymour Smith is where they actually won
Yep.
the Summit League.
Yeah, they were the regular season champs the one year, but they were on probation because they were a new Division I school, so they couldn't compete in the Summit League tournament. I think they did that twice. Division II College World Series, they made it one year too.
Uh-huh.
Yet
And this is like you said,
they're
within
playing
the last 15 years.
Yet they're playing all over Omaha.
Yeah.
I remember when they had to play a couple of games at Millard West. Makes zero sense. Let's go as far away from campus because they'll let us play and it's a decent field.
You got to go where you got to go.
God,
You got to go where you got to go.
Got to find what's available at the time.
apparently.
Have they played any?
And Westgate's too loud off the interstate. Like, what?
That's a
Coach?
nice-
I
that's a-
can't hear you.
That's a nice field, but it is
You
in a,
can't hear
it-
anything.
It is in a difficult location.
Yeah, especially if
I'd
God
love to
help you
play
if
a
you're
game
playing
there.
at 4.
Yeah, I remember playing there, and I remember the because Bellevue University
Yep.
still plays there, right?
I think so.
And I remember their mound being very, very tall.
They had a really aggressive third base lip. Roddy and Westgate might have had the most dangerous lips at third base too.
Roddy and Westgate are
if you're penciled in to play third, you're like, come on, coach, really?
Roddy and Westgate set the tone for the downtown ballpark because they're both fields that are pointed in completely opposite directions of what they're supposed to.
I'll never forget playing a 6:00 game against Bellevue East, and I had to wear shades at the plate,
on the plate
because it was setting right in front of my eyes.
The best time to play at Roddy is 9:00 in the morning.
Yep,
because then it's normal.
Hey, Bellevue East, sneaky. I like Roddy Field.
Roddy's cool. I like
a nice
field.
football stadium.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
I think they're in, it's
pretty big.
Both Bellevue's. Then when Bellevue West got their own field, because remember they played at Roddy for a while till they got their own field. Between their football, baseball setup and Bellevue East football and baseball setup, those are actually two really nice complexes on the campus there.
Do we take this call?
Yeah,
or?
take Chris.
Okay, all right. Let's.
I probably forgot a school that they played at.
Yeah, let's go.
You're missing 5 schools.
Hey, Chris, what do you got?
Hey, this is going to go back a few years, but we had home games at Sandlot Ridge.
Yes, on 190th and 192nd and Dodge. Yeah,
I love that park.
Sandlot Ridge was kind of cool.
Over the first fence was a ground rule double. You had to clear the second fence on the hill for a home run. True story.
Incredible, Chris. Thank you.
I love it. I totally forgot about Sandlot Ridge.
I played at Sandlot in middle school.
The old Diamondbacks.
We were the Omaha Black Cats, and we played at Sandlot. We were horrible, but we got to play at Sandlot.
Millard West actually played a few games there when it first opened, just because it was a new ballpark and it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was for the Diamondback Select Organization. Jim Venuto. How about that?
Sandlot. Oh, it's gone.
Sandlot
so
Ridge.
sad.
Yeah, it's part of the new development out there.
That's right. There's a lot going on out there.
I believe it's concrete. There's probably a street light there now. Remember they had the whole, they had the whole thing where there was a farmer that was nearby, and
yeah, it was just a house.
And they were ticked off when there were night games.
Uh-huh.
And so there was a city complaint, and there was this whole back and forth. Yeah. Those are the days.
I was driving to Sandlot Ridge to play a baseball game when Andy Gertch hit his famous home run at the College World Series, and people were driving down Dodge Street honking their horns and flying out the window. It was
I didn't realize that's where you're going. I remember you telling me about how people were honking in joy.
Yeah, it was amazing. That's where I was. I was about 168th and Dodge at that moment. Oh my God, he had a home run. And Jim Rose was talking about how it was the greatest moment in intercollegiate athletics, or whatever.
And one of the most thrilling moments in the University of Nebraska collegiate intercollegiate athletics history. I think I messed up the order of it, but you get the idea.
You got him.
Yeah.
You checked all the boxes.
You get the idea. Mm-hmm. Did you hit a home run then later that day?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I hit too many out at Sandlot.
I thought maybe you're inspired.
No. We in high school at Boyd, like it's pretty small dimensions out there, but in center field we had a pretty big, a nice tall wall.
Yeah.
And one day at practice, it's Central baseball. There's a lot of kids who just aren't really interested in playing baseball, but they wanted to go out for a sport. Mm-hmm. So we got some, athletic, interesting kids, and they climbed up to the top of this. I mean, this is probably a 35-foot wall, like a 30-foot wall.
Yeah.
He climbed up to the top of the wall, and it's basically the equivalent of a chain link fence.
Yeah.
And we would try to either throw stuff at him or hit him, from the plate. And one time he was sitting up there and he caught a baseball barehanded off of a bat from the plate.
Whoa.
Like on the
Whoa. That's a flag. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was awesome. Great times. Lots of shenanigans at Boyd Park.
God, so we're up to 9 locations.
I don't think UNO ever played at Boyd.
No.
I don't think so.
Probably not.
I don't think they probably would have liked that very much.
Gosh, 9 schools at Omaha played it, though, in a matter of 10 years.
Yeah. Good. Sandlot Ridge. Wow.
What a pull, too. God, Sandlot. I knew the groundskeepers there as Mike and Sam, father and son. And then one of my buddies helped out there, too. And I know they would always take home run derby BP and stuff there. That was a really cool ballpark for what was essentially a select organization, but it was big enough to host high school schools, too.
They ever, outside of the time where they hosted the state tournament, they ever host high school games at Rosenblatt?
No.
Boy, not that I can remember.
Yeah, nothing that I've ever recalled. That's why I thought it was really cool when Marty started opening that Warner up to. I mean,
Yeah.
right out of the gate started to open up just to some regular season games. That was really, really cool.
Played a few football games at Rosenblatt though.
Sure did.
I think that the last thing that was ever at Rosenblatt was that Central Prep
Yep.
throwback
Yeah,
football
it was
game.
like they had to let it go out with a bang there because it was supposed to be. Wasn't there supposed to be another Nighthawk season, but that had already folded. So that probably was the last thing.
So this is probably what, fall of 2011 or
Yeah, right around there. Yeah.
12. No, probably 11, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think that was probably
I
that
went
was
to
the
that
last
game.
event.
Yeah. They had throwback jerseys and the whole thing.
It was packed too, wasn't it?
It was awesome. It was a good crowd. Fun.
Yeah.
Very fun. I was just jealous. I was like, man.
They were a little more particular with the turf at Rosenblatt during when they actually still hosted the College World Series. That even they wouldn't have a full state tournament. And the only time they did a full state tournament there was when it was single elimination, so you didn't have that many games. Yeah. Then it was just championship game would be played at Rosenblatt. They weren't going to let Papillion play gross on a Tuesday in April there. Marty would, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
I love that they do that. I think that is so cool. But
Well,
yeah, they didn't do that.
Yeah, don't Pepio and Pepio South play there every year at Warner? Yep. Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a lot of high school games at Warner and then at Tal Anderson.
Mm-hmm. And they've done different classes. I think they've even gotten Class B and C's involved in those games too, which that's awesome. Everybody gets a chance to play in that park.
We were discussing. So while Nebraska football is going grass, everybody else is getting rid of grass.
Like high schools.
Like, I mean, think about this.
Not one.
Most kids now, before they ever get to college, when Nebraska makes this change, will have never played on grass.
I know.
Their whole football career will have been played on turf.
Now, I'll say there is a difference between playing on grass, like playing on the grass that Nebraska will be playing on, and playing on some of the grass that kids are playing on.
You went old school, brought up Berquist yesterday. Oh my God. And that was choppy. Yeah, the one over at Norris.
Just some potholes.
Yeah.
Some ditches down there.
Before Kinnick went to turf, their grass.
Oh, wow.
It was a little
Burke
rough.
Used to be grass.
Yep. I mean, they
didn't Buell used to be grass?
Buell went grass, and when they hosted Placer, remember they do the doubleheader because you'd have north and south.
Yeah.
And then on occasion in west, and they still had grass.
Yeah, the 437.
That evening game, especially in November.
Little choppy.
Oh, yeah. It was hard as frickin' cement. So, yeah.
We should throw him back, and we should build an AstroTurf playing surface for a stadium.
So
that'd be fun. Everybody wears their tennis shoes.
The old Caniglia Field, and then Benson. And that was the funny thing. So it's the exact opposite where nobody had turf. And if they did, you had to go out and buy a pair of shoes or just wear your tennis shoes. And it was this whole big deal, but you thought it was so cool. You're like, we're playing on turf, man. This is sweet.
It's different. It's different.
It was very hard too.
Yeah, I do. I always remember the first time I played it. West Side was the only baseball field that had turf for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And playing the first game there.
Oversliding the bags.
Yeah, everybody just goes out before the game and they start just diving all over the field.
You got to see
They're
how
like, this is amazing.
When do I need to start breaking down my slide?
Yeah.
No, the old turf though, not only did you buy the new shoes, but you also got the rubber sleeves. So you could eliminate turf burn. Yeah. So you had the black rubber sleeves. You could be a quarterback and you're still wearing those things. It was awesome.
Maybe when Creighton builds their new baseball park, they'll have just carpet.
Old school carpet. Yeah. That's
like
the best way. The carpet,
like the old
the
CU sports complex.
Yeah, real bouncy. That would be great.
Well, even youth,
sure, it's really healthy too.
Even like a lot of the youth fields around this area are going turf or our turf.
Gladiator Park is now.
There's so many big, complexes that are just
because you can play. I mean, you don't have to worry about rain and
Yeah, and you don't have to send a guy out there twice a week to mow the damn thing.
Right. Exactly. I mean, the investment you put up front is going to be significant.
It
but
pays for itself.
Yeah, in 5 years, you're probably like, hey.
You imagine recruiting a high school kid to come play at your baseball program, and he's never thrown off a real mound.
Yeah. It's like, what is this?
Been like
what is this dirt?
Mound.
Yeah, there's got to be
This is weird.
Is there like a study? Is there a study out there on this phenomenon? Because it was always weird to me to pitch off of a turf mound.
I thought so too,
and it just never really made sense to me. But I wonder, like you said, what kids are like now, where they've never actually pitched off of clay.
Yep.
And a mound.
What it's like to, in between innings, them having to fill the hole in the dirt because you've been stepping too much into the hole,
or dig into the box.
Yeah. That's like one of the great things.
You're hitting off a fake batter's box.
I loved that.
They do replace the carpet
Yeah.
on the landing
And then,
area.
and then
in the box.
the field prep is you just add a little bit more pellets,
Yeah.
the rubber pellets.
But the lefty box never changed.
No, that's right.
Didn't need to redo the lefty box.
Nope. We need more pellets over here.
Just got to redo the righty one 6
That's
times
weird.
a year.
God, that's weird.
All right, have a good show because I know that you will comment on your slow pitch softball team has better uniforms than what was on display last night.
Yeah, and we don't even have uniforms. I just wear a gray shirt.
It
You
says
guys don't have uniforms.
says us.
This is a team that's been going on for a while, and I kind of joined in a couple of years ago, and they did get shirts initially, but I just wear a gray shirt to match everybody else, just because I don't even
Yeah.
have to. I don't even think
Okay.
anybody would.
They wouldn't
care.
get mad at you.
But indeed, those jerseys sucked. Also, what's the connection with all of the different colors that they were doing to Texas? I don't understand. Usually
Yeah.
you would do something in the realm, in the colorway of
Yeah.
what the Rangers would.
Yeah, the red,
have.
white, and blue.
That was not, I don't know if you guys saw, but that
No.
was not the Rangers color.
It wasn't very Texas flavored.
No.
Everything else was Texas flavored, almost to a point that they were like really in on the bit.
It was weird. I don't
I don't
know
think Jessica Mendoza's taken her cowboy hat off yet.
I don't know what they were going for. I don't know what they were
No.
going for in that game.
Yeah.
Just the kind of branding of it. Very,
Seeing if we were all paying attention.
it's hard to miss.
It was.
It's hard to miss. Thank you, Nike. I appreciate all your hard work. All right. Thank you, guys. That's the crossover powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. It is Wednesday. We'll start things off next. All right, good morning. Welcome in. Happy Wednesday. It's the Connor Happer Show. You're on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer, Joey Colbert with you for one final ride through today. Once again, Joey, if you got anything to say, anything at all, get it out there. Get the takes out. Get the thoughts out.
Oh, I got some.
Okay, good. I see. First of all, Joey's a great follow on Twitter at Joey Warcola.
Good job.
I pronounced it right this time. It's where you will see tweets such as highlights from his video game endeavors, and then my favorite is the various foods. Yesterday afternoon after the show, it looks like you went and got a gyro.
Yes, I did.
And you said gyros are the best.
They are the best.
I like gyros. The best food, though. It's the best food.
Not the best food, but
it's just generally
it's generally up there.
Generally the best.
I wasn't having a great afternoon. Just was under the weather a bit. I'm a lot better right now.
Okay, good.
But after the show yesterday, I went over to Fetta's, just nearby my new apartment.
Nice.
Just was craving for one. I ate the entire thing.
Smart. Delicious.
That lasted me through the
fries,
rest of the day.
The fries are always good at the gyro place.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. Okay, I'm in on gyros as well. So anything else you want to throw out there, you can also find Joey on Twitter at Joey Warcola. All right, we're off and running. By the way, on Joey, Theo writes in on the YouTube. He says, "Producer Joe, fire emoji. Big fan. Big fan."
That was my college name.
I might have something today that Joey might be interested in, which is the ESPN going through their top quarterbacks. Yeah, it's ranking season.
It is.
You might have some thoughts.
I have my own list.
I assume that you will pine for Jordan Love to be somewhere inside of that top 10 range.
Could be in there, could be just outside.
Oh, so you have your list.
I have my list.
Good. Maybe we will compare the lists. I have some problems with the ESPN list. We could talk about that today during the show. But welcome to it. Plenty of things to get into today. We will just barely touch on last night's MLB All-Star game. As you guys saw, the jerseys were horrendous, and that's about my only take.
We all figured, Connor.
Absolutely horrendous. And people are starting to notice this and figure it out. So maybe if we continue to say it and yell it into the ether, that someone will hear, and they will say, you know what, maybe this isn't such a good thing for us, but they make money off of it, so maybe not. The tweet bag is today. Send in your tweets. As we mentioned on Twitter earlier at Happer Show on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed, whatever questions you might have, of course, but you don't have to come up. I'm not gonna handcuff you to a question, a statement, a thought, a concern, just a word, anything. Send us your tweets, submit your words at Happer Show, and we'll open that thing up at noon today. Elsewhere, Robin Washer will join the show at 1 o'clock. Mitch is in transit today, so he will not join us on this afternoon show. And that's the lineup, powered by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Want to hear from you guys, 402-951-1620. On the 42 Degrees, the Source hotline. You can call or text that number. Like we mentioned, tweet at Happer Show, at Connor Happer on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed. Email Connor or
just go to my NRG email, jcolbert@nrgmedia.com.
Yeah, you can send Joe your emails as well. So
any random thoughts,
please do on the Equitable Bank Zone inbox. And we say good morning to the YouTube streaming audience today, whether you're watching on YouTube/1620 The Zone TV or on the very new and very convenient 1620thezone. ZoneTV.live. ZoneTV.live. People forget about ZoneTV.live. Check us out there. Many other ways to get in touch with the show, and we would encourage you guys to do that, later on as we go on throughout the show today. We'll always take your thoughts. Sorry, I'm got some in there. All right, so the NFL quarterbacks list, we could do that a little bit today. A couple leftover topics from what I had on the sheet from over the last couple days, including conference realignment, stock up, stock down. We are just a couple weeks away from the Big Ten officially getting 4 new members. We have 2 new members into the SEC. We have a bunch of new teams in the ACC. Florida State and Clemson are trying to get out. The Big Ten and the SEC don't want them. We got movement. It's a new world of college football that we have. So we'll take the teams that have moved conferences or will move conferences this year, and we'll say a gut thing, plus or minus, stock up, stock down, or I suppose you could hold that stock as well. Maybe you just want to kind of see what happens in a year or two with those teams being in the conference. So we will do that during the show today. The return of Horns Down. Horns Down has not been condemned by the SEC. I don't know if it's been condoned either, but it is not. It's not going to be a penalty unless it goes too far over the rim. There's vague rules in there as it pertains to taunting. So we'll get into that during the show today. I'll tell you, Nebraska's, as we mentioned yesterday, Nebraska's biggest game of their first 7, and it might not be the one that you think it is. And Greg Sankey spoke yesterday at SEC Media Days, and then he talked to Ross Dellinger. I was reading some of what he wrote. Interesting stuff from him on the topic of conference realignment and kind of the future of the sport. And I guess I'll just tease it with this. It's possible that Greg Sankey, while he has been a major part of doing all of this quote unquote damage to the sport and the movement in the sport, certainly one of the maybe the most powerful person in college athletics at the moment. It is possible, because he is in that position, that he is saving us from further damage. I'll explain as we go on throughout the show. And so we have all that coming up today. First, so like I said, I don't have too many comments on the All-Star game, although Big Al did say the AL jerseys looked pink. I think that's what they were going for. I'm not sure about the colorways, like I said, that they were using for that game. Look, I was already against them not having the players wear their actual uniforms for this game because, as we've talked about, I like the colors and things like that. Well, they gave us a lot of color last night. And so when you're changing from the tradition of having the players wear their actual uniforms, I already don't like it. But then on top of that, the uniforms are absolutely horrendous. It wouldn't be any better for me if the uniforms weren't just hilariously bad, but it definitely adds insult to injury. So yes, they were horrible last night. And to make things worse, like for the home run derby, they were wearing their team uniforms. And it was odd. I don't know why Major League Baseball has decided to do it this way. I'm going to keep complaining about it until they change it. Maybe somewhere somebody will hear everyone's plea to change the All-Star uniforms back to regular. But here's my thing. So I was taking in a lot of the they do an All-Star game red carpet where they walk in all the players and they take pictures and they check out the fits and stuff like that. It's all for Instagram or whatever. And then they, get ready to go, and MLB Network's got great access and they can, pull over a player whenever they want. And that's cool to hear from those guys and hear from them about what it means to play in the game and to be around the people that they're in. The Royals in the game did fine last night, by the way, even though Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez both struck out in their plate appearances. But Reagans and Lugo were both fine in the game, as long as you don't ruin the game. You can live with yourself as a franchise. I don't know why I care about that. But here's what I noticed. What is up with Major League Baseball? What's the deal with Major League Baseball seemingly being all in? And this has been started by one specific person or people, group of people. Major League Baseball is all in on WAGs. You know what a WAG is, Joey, when we refer to sports?
No.
Wives and girlfriends. Major League Baseball is so... Major League Baseball is kind of horny right now. I don't know what's going on. They are all posting pictures about, obviously it's, hey, what's Livy Dunn doing today? Livy Dunn was probably the most seen person at the All-Star game last night. It's like, yeah, Paul Skeens is here, but Livy Dunn is here. And this will lead to, engagement online and stuff like that. But it wasn't only those two, the royal couple of baseball right now. It was Like they are. They're making everybody's personal information very, 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 very public. And not that it wouldn't people wouldn't find out about it, but it used to not be something that Major League Baseball like promoted. It's like, hey, here's this person's family and here's this person's wife and all that stuff. And you'll notice that it's not like, oh, here's 36-year-old all-star and his young family. No, it's like the 23-year-olds and their hot girlfriends. It's very odd. It's very weird. I'm thinking that Major League Baseball's, needs a little bit of a bonk.
Seems
right
like it's
now.
been a trend lately in sports in general.
I don't really get why. I don't know why is this a thing? Like you pay attention to, if you're a Royals fan, you might pay attention to their social media accounts. It seems like one of them is getting engaged or having a child every 10 days. And like they're all posting about it. It's it doesn't make me feel any more connected to the player or anything like that.
No.
I suppose that's what they're going for, but yeah, I've noticed this trend. Like you said, it's probably not just baseball either. But I'm calling them out here. In sports, we have an infatuation with the athletes' girlfriends. I mean, there's a reason why.
Well, look at the NFL with Travis Kelce and his whereabouts with Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah, well maybe they started this. Maybe we're trying to make everybody Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
Yeah, for each sport.
Bring up a good point. I mean, the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift of baseball are definitely Paul Skeens and Livy Dunn at this point. I don't know what that version of that would be for football, but it's happening. Alex and Lincoln. So who do we blame for this? Alex and Lincoln on the text line. Thanks a lot, Brett Busberger.
Oh, I remember that day.
That was far from the first time that happened. But now we're like, that was obviously a awkward moment. And AJ McCarron's wife, now wife, Catherine Webb, she got very famous from that. And now this is a thing where leagues and teams have kind of latched on and they're like, let's show everybody's wives and girlfriends. It's awkward to me. I don't really get it. That's what I noticed. But that's my take on the All-Star game from last night. Hopefully, I know you can't listen to my baseball takes, but that was my take on baseball last night. That's all I got on the All-Star game. All right. Once again, want to hear from you guys on the show, 402-951-1620 on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. TC writes in. Good one. He says, I'm sure that Ingrid Andress was happy about those uniforms they wore for the All-Star game. They took all the heat off her. LOL.
I was curious about how was the national anthem yesterday?
It was very good. It was exceedingly normal. Yes, it was.
That's good to hear.
Cody Johnson did a very normal job at the national anthem. He had kind of this country twang to him, So it was good. It was normal, and there was he did not appear to be under the influence or anything like that.
Just don't overdo it as well.
We might readdress that in the tweet back because we got a question coming in from before about the circumstances in which that took place the other night. Chris in Montana writes in on the text line, and okay, we can go all the way back here. Once again, it's way, 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 way more popular now with social media and whatever, knowing that you're going to get clicks on stuff. But Chris in Montana writes in, he says, Joe DiMaggio, Marilyn Monroe, Joe Namath, Raquel Welch. It's been going on since the dawn of time. It's been going on since the dawn of time. Yes. But I think Joey kind of nailed it. Like, it is definitely increased popularity where those entities, for whatever reason, think that we are interested in this, or maybe it's not for the sports fans who are actually watching the baseball games or the football games or whatever on a day in, day out basis. Obviously, it's annoying to those people. It's weird. It seems almost alienating to them, but
if it's kind of like
that's far from the first time. That's for sure.
To me, it feels like they're just showing that the athletes living a good life outside of the sport in general.
In a lot of cases, they definitely are. John emails in on the Equitable Banking Box. Harry Carey used to point out the attractive women for the cameras. It's been going on for a long time. Like I said, definitely not the first time that any of this has happened, but I don't know. I've seen an increase in popularity recently. Let's take our first time out here. We'll come back and round out the hour once again. kind of an open book. We got some things that we want to get into. The tweet bag opens up at noon. Robin will join at 1. It is Wednesday on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. Welcome back. We're the Connor Happer Show here on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Also live streaming. You can watch us. You can watch us talk. See all the reactions and various other things. Maybe somebody will pop through that door behind Joey's shoulder there. You never know. You never know.
Never know.
Maybe Nick Grimm will come in at some point during the show and just start doing some stuff. Maybe Chris will come in during the show and just start doing some stuff or saying some stuff.
Or maybe Josh makes a surprise appearance.
Well, is that possible?
It happened one time. Well, it happened when I was filling in for that 1 hour.
I think he's enjoying his vacation.
Yeah, he's got to be enjoying it.
I think he's enjoying his vacation where he took pictures outside of Nebraska's new football facility yesterday. Speaking of Nebraska's new football facility yesterday, did you see they moved the Tom Osborne statue? I've always wondered if they were going to ever, like, how you know.
Are you talking about the one with him and Brooke Behringer?
Uh-huh. Yep. So they took it from the north side of the stadium over in front of the Osborne Legacy Complex now.
Nice.
Going to use some sort of a crane to do that. Matt Rule was not a part of the moving of the statue team. Matt Rule, he might be back now, but I'm not sure. He's been posting various pictures, including the one that was on Twitter the other day, and I tweeted out today for the We Are Doing a Radio Show tweet at Connor Happer, where he's sitting with a crown and sunglasses and a Hawaiian shirt and the double finger point. Not even sure what he's pointing at, if he's pointing at anything at all. But Matt Rule has been spending the week on a Disney cruise. So maybe he was pointing at Cinderella or something like that.
Might as well, but did not make it to the picture.
Yeah. Do you think he cropped Mickey Mouse out? Or somebody who made him an omelet or something like that?
Not sure. Either that or just a random pose, just living the good life.
He's got to be pointing at somebody, right? It's got to be pointing at somebody.
It's a mystery.
I would assume that he cropped out Mickey. We're just going to assume that he stiffed Mickey Mouse. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to say Matt Rule cropped Mickey Mouse out of his picture to tweet it out and do this and on his Disney cruise.
Or maybe a bird snagged his whopper and he was pointing at the bird and it flew out of the frame.
It's very possible. You never know. Bird could show up on a cruise. I don't know. So that's what Matt Rule has been up to this week. He has been on a Disney cruise. There was a video on his Instagram last night of his daughter singing karaoke at the Disney cruise. It was awesome. I like the week of the year that Matt Rule, which is we're in right now. I like the week of the year where Matt Rule gets to be dad. Like, cause he goes full dad, like whatever Matt Rule does, he goes in full. So this is the week every year where he gets to kind of be full on dad, Matt Rule, and you get to get a lot of content out of that, which is definitely what we're seeing on his Disney cruise right now. Back to the statue, Joel writes in on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Happer Show. He says, statues move, but the Pound the Rock is immortal. You know what? I haven't been around there. I haven't been around the facility in a while now. Last check, I would have to text the preeminent voice on the Pound the Rock, which is Michael Bruns. He always keeps the whereabouts on the rock. Maybe we'll ask him tomorrow. So we remember the Pound the Rock. It was something that Billy C used. They had a giant boulder and they put a plaque on it and it said Pound the Rock and everybody was supposed to touch the rock. They tried to make it happen. It didn't really happen. They tried to make fetch happen. It didn't really happen. And, when Bill Callahan gets fired, there's just a rock. And all the coaches, we say that Bill Callahan or Steve Peterson or whatever killed tradition at Nebraska. You tell me. Every coach after Bill Callahan has inherited a giant boulder. And what Bo decided to do, now I guess it's unclear to me. I don't know what Bo decided to do with it and where he decided to put it. But when Riley was here, I assume he just made it. I assume Bo just took the plaque off and turned it back into a regular rock. And for a while, that's what it was. It was a landscaping rock. But when Riley took over, it was sitting in such an odd location. It was underneath the like there's some concessions back there where not the old Nebraska locker room, like the locker room that they had used for the last several years now, on the north side, right underneath, there's like a handicap section underneath there, where you could see the field, and it was sitting right there. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I don't know why that they decided that was the best place for the Pound the Rock, but they put it there. It was sitting there for a while, and then eventually, probably a year or two later, maybe this is still under the Riley era, maybe this is the beginning of the Frost era, it was moved outside, right next to when you walk into the Hawks Championship Center, and it was, once again, it blended in with all the rocks. So you're asking, how can you tell that this was the Pound the Rock if it just looked like a rock? Well, there is a, 12 by 12 like space on the rock that is just a different color. It's miscolored. It's different color than the rest of the rock. So that's how always you could tell that the Pound the Rock is in your presence. There's a giant square on the middle of the Pound the Rock. That was the last that I've heard of it. It's right outside the Hawks Championship Center. I don't imagine that there's anything been written about this or anything like that. So it's just really up to us to keep an eye on this and see where it's at.
There is a New York Times post about it.
About the Pound the Rock?
Yeah, from October 27, 2023. I'm going to take
2023?
Yeah, from October 27.
So,
it's
New York Times. So The Athletic, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I'll have to take a look. It's from the New York Times website. Oh, yeah, The Athletic as well. Yeah.
So hold on. What'd you type in to get there? We're doing this today.
Pound the Rock, Nebraska. It's the second thing you see on Google.
Okay, hang on. Oh yeah. All right. So so Mitch did an update on this last fall. Why is Bill Callahan's mantra inspiring rock still on Nebraska's campus? This is hilarious. So this is an update as of last October for Mitch Sherman. There it is. Mitch took a picture of it. So apparently it was just outside. It had moved locations again, I suppose. So just outside, right in that same area when you walk into the Hawks Championship Center, but north of the weight room addition to Nebraska to Memorial Stadium, sitting there basically hiding in the bushes. So this was the last update as of. Oh no, there you go. No, it's in the same spot that I thought it was, that I was describing before, because there's of course this is attached with Michael Brunt's tweet from September, who once again is the preeminent rock finder of Pound the Rock.
I've tailgate down that area several times, and
you have to check it out.
For some reason I've never noticed that.
You have to see if it's still there.
I haven't gone to a game since 2021.
This is from the story. Michael Bruntz of Husker 24/7 has chronicled the Rock's wandering ways. The Rock survived the firing of Callahan in 2007 and the coaching tenures of Bo Pelini and Mike Riley without disruption. But shortly after Scott Frost arrived in December of 2017, his regime ordered the Rock into exile. Bruntz discovered it in April 2018 alongside the outdoor track to the south side of the Hawks Center soon after the Pound the Rock placard was moved. Okay, so that's when they took off the insignia on there. All right, so that's the latest update we have as of nearly a year ago now, where the Pound the Rock is. Yes, and it is indeed immortal. You can't just blow it up, right? And we're always going to be able to tell which is the Pound the Rock. There's no doubt about that. Thank you for tweeting that in, Joel. We appreciate it. It's immortal. Maybe they'll move it in front of the new Osborne Legacy complex. Yesterday, quick one here from SEC Media Days. A lot of important things going on. Nick Saban's talking. By the way, Nick Saban's going to be great on College Game Day. We've seen him in the setting a couple times. He's really good on TV, and he's Nick Saban, right? He comes in with this, hey, I am Nick Saban, and I know college football. I know college football better than you. And so when he says something, people listen. And so he's put in a situation where he has to say a lot of things. He moves into our world a little bit. He moves into the take environment, and everything he says is pretty noteworthy. So he'll be really good. And he has certainly had a lot of things to say. He said that Texas wasn't going to run through the SEC. Shock to nobody. And then Alabama was maybe gonna, not make the playoff this year or be down or something like that. And there's some good stuff to come out of there as SEC Media Days rolls on. This is day 3, and there will be a 4th day tomorrow. But yesterday, the SEC official coordinator, the coordinator of officials, John McDade, spoke to a group of reporters at SEC Media Days in Dallas. And the primary question asked to Mr. McDade was, how is the SEC going to handle horns down? The Big 12, it was a thing for a long time. It became more and more of a thing. The Big 12 eventually outlawed it and turned it into a 15-yard penalty because it fell under the definition of unsportsmanlike conduct. The SEC is not exactly catered to Texas as the Big 12 was. That's part of what you lose when you go into conference realignment. It's not a conference that is necessarily made for you anymore and caters to you, and you don't have history with it. And so you get to play by their rules a little bit. It's almost like you're playing just road games all the time in the SEC more than, it just feels like you're on enemy turf kind of just all the time as it pertains to rules and not just obviously the football games. In the SEC's ruling, I feel like Maury Povich. In the case of the SEC versus horns down, you are not the father. McDade said, quote, the act itself needs to be offending to the senses. Once again, I'll repeat that quote. The act, in order to define it as unsportsmanlike conduct, which is a judgment call, but this is the set of rules that the SEC officials are going to, base their calls off of. The act itself needs to be offending to the senses. The Connor Happer show, offending to the senses, unsportsmanlike. Quote, if you took that act out of a football stadium and did it in a shopping mall or a grocery store, would it offend the senses to a majority of the reasonable people in the area? That signal, horns down, would not. You might have some people that share that signal with you if you did that at a grocery store or a shopping mall, depending on where you are. We're going to evaluate it in context. It brings up the question, that quote, I mean, forgive my very, childlike brain for immediately going to this. So back to the first sentence there. If you took that act out of a football stadium and did it at a shopping mall or a grocery store, would it offend the senses to a majority of the reasonable people in the area? Is a fart unsportsmanlike conduct? I would be offended if somebody farted near me. Now, at the same time, on a football field, you are in sensory overload. There's probably a lot of smells that are going on in the football field or on the sideline, so maybe that wouldn't quite rise to the unsportsmanlike conduct. But the official coordinator, John McDade, says we are going to evaluate it in context. He says, and then Sankey wasn't necessarily asked about the horns down in particular, but he was asked obviously about Texas and Oklahoma joining the conference. Says Texas and Oklahoma are now part of a conference with peer athletic programs and peer universities, so they'll fit and will fit together, the 16. We'll hear more from Greg Sankey a little bit later. A couple more just one or two more quotes from this story. This is on ESPN.com from Dave Wilson. He writes, and with all the new opponents, including revived rivalries with Texas A&M and Arkansas, they're likely to see it a lot more, the hate a lot more. McDade said he hasn't heard anything about it from Texas. And the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said Monday that questions about Texas's past influence over conference boardrooms is a non-issue. Kind of interesting in the way Texas views itself within the confines of a conference, a new conference, and then the way that Texas is viewed within the confines of the new conference. Texas, by the way, spoiler alert here, Texas is never going to shut up about it being Texas. Not going to happen. Sorry. That's going to carry through, whether they're in the Southwest Conference of the Big 12 or the SEC. They're never going to shut up about them being Texas. Like, you're never going to shut them up. So that always is a thing. On Tuesday, Oklahoma safety Billy Bowman Jr. said he wasn't sure what the big deal was about the issue. Once again, Oklahoma safety Billy Bowman Jr. says he wasn't sure about what the big deal was. Quote, it shouldn't be a penalty anyway. Everyone has a hand signal. If you let a hand signal affect you and affect the game, maybe you shouldn't be there. Cool. And then McDade said, quote, "It's not taunting. It's not making a travesty of the game. It's not affecting our ability to manage the game." So there you go. The SEC is not going to do anything about horns down. Let them fly. Let them fly.
Let them fly.
Yep. Chris in South Carolina writes in, should be a poll question. Connor, absolutely hilarious, is a fart unsportsmanlike conduct. I'll get that one up there at Happer Show and the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed. It'll go there in a second. Comment on the Rock here from Michael. It's okay. All right. In honor of rule, change the Rock's name to the Rules Pooba. All right. I like it. I don't think he's going to do. I don't. I wonder if he even knows about The Rock. He probably doesn't even know about The Rock. Also, we have an update from Josh. Josh texted me last night, and he said, I got noticed in public tonight. It was jarring, disorienting. I think we might have found the person. It's Michael on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed. Did Josh enjoy his Ivana cone ice cream last night in Crime Town? Hashtag tweetbag. All right, we'll get to that in the tweetbag. Maybe I'll send a text. I'll do some actual journalism on this one. All right. We will come back. Still plenty of things to discuss. Robin Washer will join at 1 on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. were talking about Saban. Him on TV, and he's in the take world now. He's got to give some takes, and I think that the thing that's stirring people up is he picked Alabama as the team that he coached last year to not make the SEC championship game. It's Alabama Day at SEC Media Days today. Alabama guard Tyler Booker on Nick Saban not picking Alabama to play in the SEC title game. Quote, he always said, don't let some guy who lives in mom's basement determine how you feel. I'm not going to let a guy who plays golf all day determine how I feel. That's pretty good. That's a great response. This is from Chris Hummer at 24/7. He says the follow-up was it didn't fit into 240 characters, but Booker also qualified that joke with he'd get mad at me if I felt a certain way about what he said, because, and you would assume he's referring to rat poison. Nick Saban loved talking about how every piece of the media is just rat poison. Good,
no, he's a part of it.
Good, bad, indifferent. It's all rat poison. All right, let's play. Speaking of SEC and all their new teams, Oklahoma, Texas in the conference now. This is a summer topic. Let's take some stock here. And let's play a little conference realignment, stock up, stock down. A few qualifiers here first. I would like to hear from you guys on this, because I think what we're doing here is more of a judgment call. It's almost like the wondering if horns down is going to be a penalty or not. Like to what I believe Travis said this in the chat. He said, "Are you doing horns down just generally, to people? No, that's not offensive to anybody. Are you doing horns down in somebody's face after you smack them in the backfield or something like that? That might be taunting." Mm-hmm. There's context that goes into this. So with that being said, this is a judgment call. And there's really very little rhyme or reason to this. But it's a measure. I'd like it to be a measure of all things, right? The ability to compete in your new conference, what it does for your brand, how you fit in new conference, and how it generally, and this is very vague, but generally how it feels, right? When we go through the Pac-12 teams, it'll be difficult to not say that each of those teams going to a new conference wasn't a plus, because the conference that they left is basically disintegrated into nothing. But let's kind of suspend reality for a second. Let's just pretend that league kind of still exists and those teams are moving in a vacuum, right? In a bubble by themselves. So we're not really comparing those teams to the option of staying in their own league. Now, you could, if we go back even further to previous iterations of conference realignment and this thing, I mean, we now have, in some cases, in Nebraska's case, like 10 plus years of evidence. How has it worked out for Nebraska? So just to set a baseline, I'd like to hear from you guys just quickly on that one at 951-1620, or you can comment wherever you'd like to comment. Has Nebraska's move to the Big Ten been a plus or a minus for it? And we even have 14 years of, I believe 13 seasons, 14 years in the Big Ten to kind of go off of here. Has it been good? Has it been positive for Nebraska? And most people will say, yeah, it's been a positive experience for Nebraska. They have got themselves a seat at the table. They have more money. What they were running from at the time makes it a perfect reason to leave the conference. But I would say in a lot of ways, being in the Big Ten and being in a new conference in general has really hurt them. It is diminished old rivalries. It takes a long time to create new ones. And like we mentioned with Texas and Oklahoma before, the same exact thing happened with Nebraska. When Nebraska was in the Big 12, regardless of if it was being coached by Bill Callahan and they were 5-7 or whatever it might be, there was a certain feeling that Big 12 teams had when they played Nebraska, because they had this history of Nebraska just stomping the hell out of them every year. And they took, when they did beat Nebraska during that period of time, they took great pride in doing so, and it meant something. Like it was kind of personal. We've lost a little bit of that in sports. We've lost a little bit of that in college sports, I should say, because everybody's moved around and everything feels so new and so fresh, which doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it definitely is a thing right now. I would say it's probably been a plus for Nebraska, but you could certainly make the case to me that it's been a giant negative for them. And that's if you take the money out of it. But I don't want to take the money out of it because I think that's part of the all-encompassing nature in which, I'd like to talk about this. So I wonder about your guys' thoughts on this. So let's go through a few of them here. We'll start with Texas and Oklahoma. Is Texas moving to the SEC a plus or a minus? What does that do for them? On one hand, some of the minuses of moving to the SEC are very, very similar to what I just explained about what Nebraska went through. Nobody cares that you're Texas anymore. What Greg Sankey said yesterday is important. They are moving to a league where there are big brands, and it's not just one. It's not just Texas and Oklahoma anymore. It's Alabama. It's LSU. It is Tennessee. It's Florida. It's Auburn. It's all these, and we're talking about football here, but they move. They get shifted into this world where they are. Everything that happens around them is not necessarily catered to them. They had so much pull in the Big 12. With that being said, has Texas been historically a school that has proven that it can compete with any of the best programs in the country? Is it one of the blue bloods? Yes and yes. So it can't hurt, right? I'm interested to see what happens to them with all of this competition, with all of these brands, and if they do get lost in that shuffle a little bit. But if you put them, if you put Texas as a brand right in with the biggest brands in the SEC or the biggest brands in the country, nothing really changes. I think they are hurt less moving to the SEC than what Nebraska was moving from the Big 12 to the Big 10. I'm not sure if people would agree with that. I would like to hear from people on that. And I don't know why. We brought this up with Sam yesterday. So to move on, so Texas is a plus. Oklahoma feels like a different story to me. I feel like, once again, kind of a gut thing here, but it always feels to me like Oklahoma, has more leaned into Texas and Oklahoma were the kings and queens, I guess, of the Big 12, the homecoming kings and queens, and everything was kind of catered to them. Oklahoma is not necessarily, you look at their performance in the college football playoff era, they've made it a couple times. They've probably had more general success than Texas in the last, I guess 15 years, dating back to the Rose Bowl that Texas played in with Vince Young. So if you start after that, Oklahoma, I wonder what their record might be when you compare them to Texas over that period of time. Oklahoma's been a really, really strong program, but they got put into a couple college football playoffs and never won a game. And they were kind of viewed as the team, even though they've had Heisman trophies and they've had All-Americans and they've had great coaches and great players, and they recruit as probably like a second tier program in the country. It just feels to me that they kind of leaned into that a little bit more. It's probably still up for Oklahoma. It probably still helps them from a brand perspective. But would you at all be surprised if after 5 years in the SEC, Oklahoma, and it doesn't just manifest itself from a record perspective, but would you be at all surprised that if Oklahoma in 5 years, we're talking about them as a 7, 8, 9 win team rather than a 10, 11, 12 win, probably going to the college football playoff every year team? Wouldn't surprise me at all. In fact, I don't expect that from Oklahoma. I think that they are going to be the 7, 8, 9 win team who is pretty good, and consistently they have got to deal with people, but they are to me, from a brand perspective and from a competitive perspective, it just feels like they're a step off of what Texas is able to bring. And like I said, I'm not sure if people would agree with that, but that's kind of the gut from me as of right now. Like I said, probably still up. Talk to me in a couple years. Talk to me in a couple years. I wonder how that looks after a few years of them playing in the SEC. Then we get to the wackiness. Let's do the ACC schools. So what does it mean for Cal, Stanford? Let's just do Cal and Stanford together, right? I don't know if you guys have heard this. It's odd. It's even odd for me to say out loud, and I sometimes forget it exists. Cal and Stanford in the ACC this year.
Weirdest thing.
Doesn't make any sense.
No.
Cal and Stanford in the ACC. They come from the Pac-12, where they have a lot of history. Stanford, as an athletic department, one of the more successful athletic departments in the country in terms of Olympic sports, and not just, obviously, they have had a good football program, but it's certainly waned over the last several years. They are not going to be a school that gets into the big money game. They start swinging their sword around, just like, just to bring up an example, like Texas and Alabama's and whatever of the world, or even in their own conference, the Clemsons of the world or the Florida States of the world. There's no, so that combined with moving into an unfamiliar place, it is going to be incredibly difficult for them to be able to compete in that league. Which is probably, from a competition standpoint, not a whole lot different from what they've experienced over the last couple of years in the Pac-12, in which they, obviously the Pac-12 was really good last year, but they haven't been competing in a couple of years now. And now they go into an unfamiliar space. There's going to be a lot of travel involved.
Yeah, that's going to be
there's no way Stanford is not stocked down for me. When you include everything, including the way the college athletics are heading, and obviously the people that they surround themselves with. I think Cal's the same. Is that fair to put Cal in the same category? We could just say they're both stocked down. They're both forgotten about in their new conference, and probably not immediately equipped to compete in the league. And they'll have to really find what their niche is. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but there's no way that those two aren't stocked down. The other two are the other team going to the ACC is SMU. SMU is a little different. SMU is coming from a Group of 5 league. SMU is not taking any money from the ACC. They're basically paying in to play in the ACC, but that's how bad they wanted into a new conference and a new situation. They wanted to, they view themselves as one of the big boys, not the big boys, but the big boys in collegiate athletics. And they said, we will do anything to be a part of this. We will do anything just to be surrounded by like-minded individuals, like-minded people. And it's in Dallas. And they got some NIL going. So SMU, while not really benefiting from a monetary standpoint as being a part of the ACC, removes itself from the Group of 5 term, right? They're in the group, they're in the Power 4 now. And so they probably go up, and that's they're paying for it, but they're probably going up. Like I said, it's like pay to play for SMU just for them to be in the league that they're in. They're not a welcome addition to the league. Now, does it get difficult for them to compete? Of course, but do they have the ability to? Do they have this ceiling where it can recruit because it has some fertile recruiting grounds, and it's got some NIL money behind it, and it's got just general the ability to make investments into their athletic programs? Yeah, SMU stock up. It's weird, but while Cal and Stanford are stocked down, SMU is stock up. And then we get to the let's do the Big 12 schools now as well before we get to the Big 10 ones, just quickly here. What do we make of, how does it feel on Utah, Colorado, Arizona State? What do we do with this information? They go from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. I would think I feel like last year's Pac-12 or what the Pac-12 has been kind of comparable to what the Big 12 is kind of building now. Obviously brandless, but does Colorado, Utah, or Arizona State move into the driver's seat as far as brands are considered in the Big 12? I don't know. Once again, talk to me in a couple of years on Colorado. Utah's interesting. That's a team that has survived conference realignment before. They have moved up in the world. And why have they moved up in the world? Because they've had a plan. They've had an identity. They've been able to compete. And maybe they were punching a little bit below their weight class in previous years when they were in the Mountain West or the WAC or whatever small group of 5 West Coast conference they've been in. They move over for the Pac-12 now. I feel like that's a school that is prepared to take on whatever it takes on, and it gets Utah probably benefits. Obviously, none of this happens without Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC, but they probably benefit by the absence of Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC, at least a little bit, because they get to become a top tier brand in their conference. Arizona State. Talk to me in a couple of years. Oregon's up. Oregon gets to leave they're a national recruiting brand anyway. Their brand and what they've kind of meant to the sport or just college athletics over the last 2 decades has transcended whichever conference they're in. A lot of times you look at these Pac-12 schools and you say, man, well, Washington State, that's a rivalry that I'm interested in. Oregon State, that's not a rivalry that they are defined by, right? They are a brand outside of their bubble of the Pac-12. So they get to move into a conference where they get surrounded by some more national brands, and Oregon feels like they are where they belong right now. Is Washington where they belong? You could make a lot of the same cases for Oregon as you could for Washington, just with a little bit less success and a little bit less money. Obviously, we're talking about NIL money, donor money, things like that, donor ability. But they have a recruiting foothold. That's a program that is recruited nationally. Hell, they were the national championship game last year. Now nobody expects that to continue into this year. They'll probably take a huge step down. But I do think Washington is up. I think Washington is stock up. Once again, that's a brand that exists outside of its own bubble. USC. Now, ability to compete in the conference, they might be the worst set up because of what they have turned into over the last several years. They have gone from, one of the nation's preeminent powers in the mid 2000s with a great coach, and they could have beaten anybody anyway, to a little bit more wide open and West Coasty, I suppose. And now they go into a conference that is vastly different, and you'll have to work through it. They're still talented as ever, but they've changed the shape. They've changed that program a little bit. It has changed over the years. And so for their ability to compete in the league and be consistently good on a year in, year out basis, they're always going to be able to recruit. USC, to the point that I made about Oregon and Washington, is a brand outside of the bubble that they lived in, which is the Pac-12. So from that standpoint, it's still good. USC goes a hair down a little bit. It's probably medium or a hold, but maybe not quite as much as Oregon and Washington. And then UCLA. UCLA's got lost in the shuffle a little bit. UCLA might be okay this year. But it's a school that that's athletic department doesn't necessarily, have a ton of investment right now. They get lost in the shuffle in college athletics in the city, and they obviously get lost in the shuffle in college in just athletics, sports in general in their town with all the professional sports that they have out there. UCLA gets UCLA joining the Big Ten almost feels like more of a bailout than anything. So what happens to their brand as they move to the Big Ten? Obviously, they'd prefer it over being in the conference that they were in, but their stock goes down to me. I want to hear from you guys on that one. 951-1620. We got a couple comments that we can get to on the other side here as well. Just a little riffing, like not an exact science on that one. Conference realignment, stock up, stock down. What I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Wherever you'd like to get in touch with the show. Don't forget the tweet bag is coming up in a little bit as well. Still need questions for that. We'll be back with more on 1620 The Zone. Once again, get your questions in, your thoughts, concerns on the tweet bag, which is coming up here in just a little bit. We get a few minutes, and then we'll get Joey's odd news, which I know he's excited about today. And then we will open up the tweet bag coming up probably just a hair after noon, 12 p.m. at this point. 402-951-1620. Also, you can watch us along at zonetv.live. Got an email from John on the Equitable Bank inbox on Oklahoma. It says, I disagree with you somewhat. To me, it feels like Oklahoma is going to go into the SEC, keep their head down, get to work, and be successful. Texas feels like they are going into the SEC, running their mouth and acting like they are still the big dog. I think Oklahoma is going to be more successful over time, and I think Texas is going to gravitate to the middle of the conference. I just think, you might be right about the way it plays out. I don't know, but I just think Texas's brand is that's how we keep track nowadays. Sorry, unfortunately, that's it says a lot about how people feel about you and stuff like that. Like what kind of brand you are, how big your brand is, what kind of money you have access to, facilities, ability to hire coaches. Like what's a more likely scenario? Just comparing the two brands here. Is it Texas hiring a successful coach from Oklahoma who's coached at Oklahoma, right? Like let's say Oklahoma's softball coach. You know, they've won and won and won and won. Couldn't you see Texas running in there and saying, "Would you like to have $8 million a year to coach us?" Yeah, like I could see that. In fact, it just happened with Jim Schlossnagle. It just happened, right? So Texas will do that. That doesn't make them you still have to hire the right person, but they have this ability to do that if they make the right decisions, if they hire the right people, if they get the right people in charge. That's a program, an athletic department that its success, its level of success, its heights that it could reach are kind of unlimited. I can't see a world where if like a Texas basketball coach is having success, or a women's basketball coach, whatever it is, Oklahoma comes in and says, "Here you go. Would you like to come coach here instead?" And they'd say, "Sure." I just don't see it, right? I don't know if that's a great measure of brand value or something like that, but it gives you a pretty good idea of the pecking order. Texas, I think, could be a more volatile place. Texas is a place where you could go through coaches faster. Oklahoma, like I said, falls probably a little bit closer to the Nebraska category, where if they're not having success, it kind of just floats away for a little while. If they are having success, they're viewed as one of the national brands and the national powers of the sport. And so there's a few comments going back and forth right now in our YouTube chat about this idea. And I guess I don't even know where to start from Star Wars Fiend here, because there's a lot going on in there. It says, problem Nebraska fans have in the media, sorry, Connor, is we talk about year after year. We talk about Nebraska year after year as if they were still a big boy program and they just need to get over that hill. We have not had a true winning season since Mike Riley's second year, and it was a fluke. It really was. I mean, who today outside of Nebraska would place Nebraska football on the same page as Michigan, USC, or Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, Wisconsin, Iowa? Yes, as much as I hate Iowa. Then throw in a possible addition of Notre Dame, Clemson, Florida State out there. I'm sorry, Nebraska has been down too long in the Big Ten to make a quick climb where they want to be. See, but like, I think we can look at this outside of how many games have you won and lost. Brad, I'll flip that statement on you the other way, Star Wars Fiend, and I'll say, if Nebraska has success, and if they do become a program that is consistently respected, and I'm not even talking about winning national championships. I'm not even talking about winning conference championships. I'm just saying, like, have some stabilized success, general success for a span of 2 or 3 years, the approach, I think, nationally will be like, when's Nebraska going to break through? Or is Nebraska going to break through? That's the same as Oklahoma. Same as what Oklahoma just went through. They have been good for a long time. They've been really good for a long time. And the question was like, all right, they're in the playoff. Are they going to break through and be in the playoff? There's a difference between that and, somebody from the middling portions of whatever conference you're talking about, putting together, like if Illinois had Minnesota is a good example of this, right? Minnesota won, 11 games in 2019, and then they won 9, and then they won 9 again. And then last year, I think they dropped back down to 7. But like, nobody's looking at Minnesota to be like, hey, when are they going to break through? The passion that you have in your, so as much as we like to talk about how Nebraska fans prop up Nebraska, it's absolutely the truth, but that matters in terms of perception, right? Nobody after a 7-win season at Minnesota is calling for PJ Fleck's head. We're talking about after a 9-win season, PJ Fleck's trying to get out. PJ Fleck's trying to find another job that's bigger and better. Right? That just like, I don't think Nebraska's that type of program, and maybe I'll be eating my words if, Matt Rule's here for 7 years and they win a bunch and they get to a conference title game or 2 or something like that, and they win a bunch of bowl games or maybe go to the playoff once or whatever it might be. And then he leaves and takes a bigger and better job. I think people, I don't see that. I have not seen a lot of things that have happened with Nebraska football. I don't think I do understand that that's a possibility, but I don't feel like Nebraska is the type of program where you would sit there and you'd be like, man, that coach just needs, in order to take a program to the next level, that coach just needs more investment and more support and more whatever. Like, you have it. You can get it if you win at Nebraska. And so when Nebraska, returns to, a normal Nebraska season, which is, you're just using the bow seasons as a barometer, as an example, it won't be like, oh, well, when's that coach going to leave for his next job? At Minnesota, it is. At Minnesota, it is. And there's kind of the difference in that. I think Oklahoma and Nebraska are comparable in that regard. So, this is all, once again, just a feel thing and a gut thing, and we don't know how it's going to play out until it actually plays out. But I do, every single blue blood program around the country, Oklahoma's included in that conversation, Nebraska's included in that conversation. Every single blue blood around the country has had, multiple years of being down from their history. The only program that's been kind of immune from it has been Ohio State over the years. They had 1 year where they were banned from the playoff. They won 6 games or whatever, and that was kind of it. You can pencil them in for 9-10 wins every single year, and usually they're going to be in the conversation, in competition for a national championship. Kyle writes in on the text line. Says, remember when Nebraska went into the Big Ten too confidently? Teams couldn't wait to beat them and rub it in. I could see Texas being humbled. Yeah, but like, still, I would say that it's a brand that's not going to go anywhere. That's the difference. Like, we're talking about how you perform, like literal wins and losses, compared to, like, I don't know, what kind of support you get, what kind of athletic department is it, and what do you kind of want to be going forward? Of course, I can see Texas getting humbled. They're gonna get humbled. They're gonna get humbled. It's a way different deal playing in the Big 12 than it is in the SEC. I mean, it's just harder to win as many games and get to where you want to go. Of course,
they're not going to be running the conference like they were in the Big 12.
Of course, they're going to get humbled, but nobody's sitting there. Like, even we experienced this already. Texas already fell into mediocrity. it didn't kill their program. They were always one hire away. Nebraska, always one hire away, you know? And so it's a little bit similar in that regard. Let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back. Joey will have the odd news on the other side. Still don't forget to get your questions in or thoughts in for the tweet bag. We'll open that thing up at noon. Got a few, could use a few more. Joey has the odd news next on 1620 The Zone. Might get into this a little bit more later, but speaking of conference realignment, bookies.com had one of these little weird surveys that they sent out to, these email lists or whatever. UCLA will travel a Big Ten high 22,048 miles in football this upcoming year.
Wow.
In
Cue up Johnny Cash. I've been to everywhere.
So to list by most to least miles traveled, the numbers of time zones crossed. So the number of time zones crossed that UCLA will have to, travel through this year. So even if you fly over them, it still counts as a time zone crossed. Just to play their 12 regular season football games this year, 26 time zones. 26 time zones.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We'll have more on that a little bit later, because I guess I have a theory on Nebraska, and we'll talk about where they sit on this list as well. But first, Joey's got the odd news. Joey, what do we got today?
All right, the first one comes out in Palm Bay, Florida, from Monday morning. 20 treated with there was a bug bomb that went off inside a Publix.
Bug bomb?
Yes.
What's that mean?
Some chemical bomb went off in the store, and
okay.
So basically, a Publix in Palm Bay was evacuated, and 20 people were treated after a bug bomb activated when it dropped inside the supermarket, and it caused a chemical smell. 20 people were treated for respiratory issues while crews searched for the cause of the smell, which turned out to be a bug bomb that activated when it hit the floor after being dropped.
What did it smell like? Do we know?
Didn't really say, just gave off like a chemical like smell.
Okay.
It's got to be nasty.
I would assume so. They went to the hospital because they had respiratory problems?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. So someone planted this? Someone did this?
It didn't really say on the article. It just...
All right, hold on. I need more information. But where is this bug bomb?
Palm Bay, Florida.
So like,
Publix.
You're talking about the type of thing that they use to like, on Breaking Bad, when they go in and they bomb all the houses with chemicals, and then they leave, and they cook them. They tent the house, and then they cook the meth, and then they bomb it after that. That's what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. I would assume so as well. So this went off in a grocery store?
Yes, in a Publix.
In a Publix. Bug bomb falls off shelf at Florida grocery store. 20 people treated. Interesting. All right. Weird. So maybe this was something that was inside of the grocery store already. So it dropped from a shelf, activated when it hit the ground. Yikes. That's not good. I would not have wanted to be in that store. That's for sure. Next.
Well, Connor, we talked about pets earlier before the show. This comes out of Buffalo, New York. So some owner has a pet alligator. His name is Albert. And the pet was seized by the New York State agency.
I don't think you're allowed to have an alligator.
Well, this person had the alligator for like 30 years, had a license, and...
Wow.
So
they get an alligator license? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's a license to have dangerous animals. But anyway, the alligator was seized by the New York State agency, and the man, Tony Cavero, sued the state Supreme Court.
So why did they seize the alligator?
Because the license wasn't renewed. Or
gotcha. They got him on a technicality.
Yeah.
Tough.
But the alligator is 11 foot, 750 pound, name Albert. He argues that the agency was wrong not to renew a license for the pet he looked after for more than 30 years.
Well, yeah, you would assume after 30 years of having an alligator that he was pretty well domesticated. If he wasn't if he hadn't, eaten anybody or caused any harm to anybody in 30 years, They just got him on a technicality.
Yeah, so basically,
That sucks.
basically conservation officers entered his home back in March, sedated the alligator, taped his mouth shut, and drove him off.
Wow.
Drove off with him saying that the license to keep the reptile expired in 2021 hasn't been renewed. So it's been expired for a few years now.
Yikes. Well, you got to take care of the papers. Now, you get to the point where your best friend is an alligator and you name him Albert.
Yeah, it's an emotional support alligator.
Oh, an emotional support alligator. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Man, sad. These are sad stories.
Yeah.
These are bad stories. These aren't odd stories, Joey. These are bad.
These are bad odd stories. But
the stories themselves are bad. The topics of like, what is happening to the people inside of the stories are bad.
But Albert was taken to Gator Country, a Beaumont, Texas rescue facility where visitors can interact with the alligators and other reptiles. So pretty much the owner and his attorney are in the process of negotiating to get
they got to get
the license back and to get the gator returned home.
I lived with a guy in college who he had a pet named Albert as well. Albert Einstein. That was a hedgehog. So if you're doing this on, technical research, like I lived with a hedgehog, I guess, in college. He lived upstairs, didn't really interact with him much. You'd bring him down every once in a while. Yeah, you'd put him in your hands and you'd poke his little belly and his arms would fly out like that. It's kind of cute. Kind of a bit, but kind of cute. Not cute having an 11-foot alligator. But that wasn't the point. This is an emotional support alligator.
Yeah.
Okay. And one more.
The last one comes out in Japan. So Connor, have you tasted like real spicy chips? Like the one chip challenge?
I have.
You had?
I have done the one chip challenge.
How was that?
Bad. I didn't like it.
Okay, so this one
I've done the hot ones challenge as well.
Okay, so this one comes out in a Japan high school. High school students in Japan were taken to a hospital after eating, in quotes, super spicy crisps. It's basically a spicy chip that is 18 plus. Pretty much anyone below the age of 18 are not advised to eat it.
You're going to sign a waiver or something like that.
Yeah, basically. But a student brought the spicy chips to school. Students became ill from eating them. It was reportedly given out just for fun.
See, this is nonsense to me. It's first of all like a horrible prank. Like I've heard of people taking this chip, which costs a bunch of money to buy this individual chip. They'll send it to you. And then what they'll do, like the kids these days, they're for pranks, they'll like put it in a bag with regular chips and then people eat the chips.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, geez, what the heck is going on here? And you could tell obviously that it looks a little bit different usually.
Yeah. So it's basically not a one chip deal. It's like a bag of chips you could just randomly eat, but they're just really hot. Yeah. So 13 girls and one boy, all first-year students, complained of nausea as well as stomach mouth pain.
Maybe the FDA needs to do something about this. Maybe they need to say like, hey, we probably don't need to actually sell these things.
Yeah.
Now, what people will say is it is our right. It is it's some personal responsibility here. It's our right to be able to buy spicy chips. But maybe we could, as a country, as a society, come together and say no more buying spicy chips because people are doing nefarious things with spicy chips. Maybe we could come together as a country and say that.
So the spiciness in the chip comes from the potent ghost pepper from northeastern India, thought to be one of the world's hottest chilies.
Yeah, it's very stupid.
Yeah,
unnecessary to have a very, very spicy chip like that.
But yeah, this
is the only thing that it could do is cause harm.
Yeah. So the
right?
chips
we're talking about spicy chips.
So the chips are labeled 18 plus curry chips, and then the company who made the chip, on their website they forbid under 18s from eating them due to the extreme spiciness and urges the spice lovers to eat with caution. And also they said don't eat this alone, just because of the consequences that comes with it.
No, there's no reason to have these.
No,
literally at all whatsoever, other than for people to pull pranks on you and to make you sweat and look stupid. So
just make you look. feel sick in general.
Yep. No reason to have them. That's for sure. All right. Thank you, Joey. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Connor.
That is the odd news. Some people yelling at me. Well, not yelling at me, but some people commenting that I don't know what a bug bomb is. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know what many things are, to be completely honest with you. We still got some questions and some openings for the tweet bag. Please send them our way. We got enough to fire it up, though, and we'll do it next on 1620 The Zone.
is the Tweet Bag. You send your questions in, and we answer them. Like no other radio segment ever. It's the Tweet Bag on the Connor Happer Show.
All right, time for the tweet bag. We still got more room for you guys to get in. We still have more room for you guys to get in if you'd like. We'll take them throughout the segment at Happer Show and the JTech Instructions on Twitter feed. I'd say that's the easiest way, but even if it's a text and even if it's an email and even if it's a comment on the YouTube stream, it is still a tweet. A lot of stuff going on in the comments, by the way, today, but I really like this one from Andrew. We'll put it up here on the page. Flaming Hot Cheetos ruined this country. I love Flaming Hot Cheetos.
I love them.
See, that's an example of a hot chip that is a reasonable hot chip. A reasonable hot chip to be able to buy and enjoy and eat.
It's something you can manage too.
Something that you can manage. It's actually not even that hot,
No.
especially on the grand scheme of things.
There's a spicier Cheeto, which is the
Is there a spicier than the Flaming Hot jalapeno?
well, there's the extra flaming hot.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know about that.
It's the black Cheetos
Wow.
bag.
It's the first time I'm hearing about this just now. I had not seen that before. So does it fall into the same category of the super hot chip challenge or whatever?
No, it doesn't. It's just
still edible.
Yeah, it's edible. It's just a hotter version to the flaming hot Cheetos.
Gotcha. So people need a little bit more kick.
Yeah.
All right, I got some tweets here at Happer Show, the JTech Instructions on Twitter feed. Got a couple texts on the text line. Once again, you can continue to send those into the show. But here's a few, Joey. I'll have you answer some of these as well. You could fire right away.
Yeah, I could do that.
This one is probably a better. Although I did text Josh after this. Michael writes in. Did Josh enjoy his Ivana cone ice cream last night when he was in Crime Town? #tweetbag. If you use the #tweetbag, I'm going to get to it. No doubt about it. So I did text Josh, and I asked him at 11:41 a.m., did you enjoy your Ivana cone? And he said, I did. Strawberry milkshake. I don't know if, now, I guess I didn't do my proper journalism here, and I didn't ask him, like, did I have a strawberry milkshake ice cream cone? I don't assume that's the case. Well, I should have confirmed with him that he went to Ivana Cone and got a strawberry milkshake, which for the record, I am fine with. I recently went to Ted and Wally's, lovely place downtown. I went there during the College World Series and I got a malt. I looked at the flavors and I thought, a lot going on there. And, maybe let's just keep it real normal tonight. And so I got a malt. And people were like, you just got a malt from a great ice cream shop. And I said, yeah, what's wrong with that? It's one of their things. They got great malts. I don't have a problem with it. You want to go to the ice cream place and get a milkshake or a malt? I'm not gonna laugh at you. That's for sure. To the text line here. This is from Michael. Connor and Joey, which one of these would you want to bring back today from your childhood? A 50-cent gumball machine that either gave you a mini football helmet with stickers, mini MLB helmets, little baby MLB, which I think you could still find any of these anywhere, or overgrown large team logo stickers. Now, are we talking about like fat heads that, basic, like fat? This is before you could just do anything on the internet. There was a special website. It was Fatheads, and it would just send you gigantic logos that you could paste up on your wall.
Oh yeah, I remember.
It's like the poster. I'm sure many people know about Fatheads. So, all right, what's your answer, Joey? 50-cent gumball machine that give you the football helmets or the stickers, the mini MLB helmets, like the little tiny baby ones, or the gigantic team logo stickers.
I would say the gumball machines with the mini football helmets.
I actually agree. I I didn't like the method in which you had to put your quarters into the machine to get the stickers, because you'd have to put it in the little tray and then shove the thing in and then pull it out. I didn't like that. Wasn't as satisfying to me
No, it
as
wasn't.
putting it in the gumball machine and then turning the dial. That wasn't as satisfying.
And the thing is, you don't know if that machine is operating properly.
No.
And there's times where the machine's jammed and you don't get anything and you lose a quarter.
I think I've asked this question recently, but do they still have the gumball? Like they had that stack of gumball machines that was at the Westroads Mall for the longest time. It was just like in the middle of a hallway somewhere. It was like a cluster of probably 15, 20, 30 gumball flavors of gumballs.
I should head over there right after this because
I do some research for me.
I live right over there.
Okay, maybe you do. Maybe you jump in there.
Where would that be?
I really don't remember. It was like in the it's just in one of the hallways. I can't tell you if it was on the second floor or the first floor. Maybe somebody has done this research already.
Basically in the general area of the mall.
Yeah, it was like in between all the stores. It was like it's definitely a common area.
Okay.
And you just walk by and there's a cluster of gumball machines and it had all the different flavors of gumballs that you could want. You got to put 50 cents into it or whatever. I always got the watermelon gumball. I love watermelon flavored things.
I remember as a child going, we did some family gatherings at Johnny Sortino's and they had a little sticker machine of college football logos.
Nice.
And me and my cousin would ask for lots and lots of quarters just to get a bunch of team logos. And
Johnny Sortino is like Gumball and Game Central.
Yeah, we did that until we finally got the Nebraska helmet. And the sticker would be a little Nebraska helmet or a little team helmet and then a little circle sticker with the team logo as well.
I want to give myself credit because I found out at a really early age, maybe earlier than most, that the claw game was a total scam.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped playing the claw game so early. I was telling all my friends at, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, something like that. I was telling my friends, I'm like, hey, don't do the claw game. You'll never catch anything. It is designed against
a waste.
You. I was a claw game truther at a very early age. So I was really proud of that fact. But I'll admit, it does look tempting. All that stuff in there. What's
all the goodies?
How difficult could it really be? Just put the claw down and grab the thing and put it in. They even have them. They have them in like casinos now, where they have big plastic balls and there's like fake money inside, and they spin the wheel on the inside, and it tells you how much money you could potentially get by simply picking up one of these plastic balls with the claw. And so it's like $500. You can win $500 if you pick up this ball. And so you grab the claw, and you goes down.
You're that desperate.
Do you think it picks up anything? Hell no.
You're that desperate to win. Just grab a small child and put them in.
Yeah. I mean,
tell them what to grab.
Have you experienced that before?
No.
That is always depicted in television shows and movies, and I've never seen it actually happen.
I would see that on social media sometimes. I haven't seen it in a while.
By the way, we got a follow up here on the gumball machines from Star Wars Fiend, who does know what I'm talking about, and he says they do not have them anymore. They are gone.
No.
So no need for Joey to go to Westroads and try and find the gumball machines.
That saves me a trip.
Also, follow up from Charles, who carries change anymore.
There's a lot of people that do.
Not like I don't need to have it on me, like at all times. But I always have the change thing in my car because I sometimes pay with cash.
Well, also, if you go to Aldi's, you need to use a quarter to get a cart.
That's right. You get the quarterback at the end, right?
What was that?
Do you get the quarterback at the end?
Yeah.
Okay,
you do. You do. You get to keep the quarter and just put it back in your little holder.
Here's Pedro. My question is that now that you will have a child, what video game do you think you will introduce the child to? For example, I introduced my son to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Great game. I will. Well, it's got to be just whatever I'm playing, right? I don't need my child to have the ability, want, or need to play video games. But maybe if my child shows an interest in video games at some point, it'll be whatever I'm playing. which, I mean, if this child became aware of what I was doing, which it will not in the next, couple weeks and months, it will definitely have an understanding that I really like playing the new college football video game because I'll be spending a lot of my time on it.
Might as well.
Yeah. So I don't know that it will be like a directive to say, all right, kid, sit down, time to learn the college football video game. But, when I was a kid, I was, I think the first system that I had that it was we called it the regular Nintendo. It was, I guess, the NES, right? So the game that came with it was the Duck Hunter game, and it came with the shotgun, and we had Duck Hunter. I loved Duck Hunter. I played a bunch of Duck Hunter when I was a kid. That was what I got into. It wasn't because anybody around me got into it. It's just like it was there. It came with it. Let's see. We got a couple. Oh, by the way, a follow up on gumball clusters. Aaron writes in, Oakview Mall is your home for gumball clusters. The Oakview Mall has a gumball cluster. If you're interested.
Ooh.
Okay. That's a good little oop there. All right. A couple from the email inbox. Here is Chris. With reference to the Hawk Tua girl, if you said something embarrassing on camera and it became a meme, would you retire and make millions off it or brush it off and keep your job? AKA turn down endorsement deals, etc. in return. What a question, first of all.
Well, I did not make money off of the flannel shirt incident.
Didn't quite go viral enough.
No, it did not.
The flannel shirt incident. No, didn't quite get you to that point, Joey, sadly. But would you have? Let's say you became a thing online and everybody was talking about flannel shirts for walking, and they made reference to you every time, and that video was viewed millions and millions and millions of times. Would you quit and leave and just take the endorsements and take the money but knowing that for the rest of your life, starting at that point when you have steered into the skid, you are the flannel shirt for walking guy?
I would not quit.
It's an interesting question. It's an interesting question because you get a lot of money right away, and you can certainly profit off of your 15 minutes of fame. If I was Hawk Tua girl, just trying to put myself in her shoes a little bit, like, I don't know what she was experiencing in her day-to-day life before she became the Hawk Tua girl. She has certainly dove into the idea that, she can profit off of her 15 minutes of fame. I do think there's probably an avenue where you get both of them. You don't have to quit your job in order to be like, in a job like mine, I could be the Hawk Tua girl and profit off of, be richer at my job because I was the Hawk Tua girl. If I was sitting at a desk all day, they probably wouldn't like it so much. So I'd have to make a choice. I would probably do all I could to not be shoehorned into one specific thing for the rest of my life. But with that being said, I mean, at least she's known for something.
Yeah, at least
it's not everything, but she's known for something.
And she's doing good off of her endorsements.
I just wouldn't want, I would want to be very cautious about what that one thing was. I certainly wouldn't want it to be about Hawk Tua.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Eric writes in on the inbox. How many of your Huskers season games on NCAA have you restarted in the fourth quarter after realizing you were going to lose or had a crappy start? I think I've finished 5 games of the season, but realistically I've played 20 games to get there. Do you let the game play out, or do you accidentally restart the game and go for that
accidentally in quotes?
So I'm a little different. People have called me weird for this. I like it to be as realistic as possible. Like, so somebody asked me the other night, I got a message of like, all right, who are you going to be to start off your dynasty? And I was like, well, I'm down to a couple, and they were all Power 5 schools. And they were like, what the hell? Well, you're starting at Power 5. It's like diabolical, like you're supposed to start low, win a bunch of games there, and then go up. And I had to explain my approach on these, which has always been my approach on these games, which is like, I want to try and make it as realistic as possible. So you got to lose. You have to just eat a couple L's right off of the bat. I have chosen to start my dynasty that I'm going to care about with people aren't probably going to like this, with Minnesota.
Ooh,
I'm Minnesota, and
that's a good spot.
I believe I'm 1-4 right now.
Are you actually playing the games, or are you?
Oh yeah, I'm playing. I'm
both
playing
offense and defense.
I'm playing every second of every game. I'm playing as hard as I possibly can on Heisman, and
Oh man, you're going all in.
no, but yeah, like I'm 1-4. I suck right now, and so I'm doing this in the hopes that I will improve at playing the game, obviously, but my team will improve over the years as well. Hopefully, I could get to a bowl this year, and maybe by next year I can think about maybe trying to make the college football playoff once I get used to it. Just how I approach it. I know it's weird, but I haven't started over that much. The only time I've had to start over, really, is because I played an entire game, and then at the end of it, the servers were down, and it kicked me out, and it didn't count it. That's bad. EA, you knew that it was going to happen. Please fix your servers.
They weren't prepared as the officials down at Hard Rock. With all the fans storming into the stadium.
Yeah, I don't know that they were exactly as prepared as them, I think. Jeff writes in, this is a sign of maturity. He says, younger me would always restart if I was going to lose, but now I take the L if it happens. Joey, what about you? You taking L's?
Yeah, I'm taking L's. I'm at the point where I got to start in the bottom. I still have to figure out who I want to start in my dynasty. I'm still playing exhibition games just to get used to things. Just the mechanics are totally different.
So you're taking it seriously. You're kind of like me in that way.
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay, last one here on the tweet bag. It's from Venmo Chris. I'd like you to answer this question as well. Connor, your life is on the line. My life. I will die if this doesn't go my way. Nebraska is down by 5 points with 2 minutes to go. They need a touchdown to win. They cannot have a field goal. Which quarterback do you want out of this group? Bo Davis, Riker Fife, Heinrich Harburg, Joe Daly. Okay, so a couple follow-ups, or let's get the parameters straight here. I'm down by 5 with 2 minutes to go. So the assumption here is if I turn the ball over, I'm dead. I die. Right? I don't have any timeouts. I can't get the ball back. If I lose the ball, I'm dead. Literally. All of these, I noticed, Chris, that all of these players that you have given me as options are maybe a little turnover prone. And so that makes it a little bit difficult. And so what I don't want to do is go for like the high ceiling guy, because you still have the good ability to, I don't know. I feel like I could probably, I have the best chance that I'm going to have with either Harburg or Daly. Harburg gives you the running element. I mean, Heinrich Harburg won a bunch of games last year. People forget that. Joe Daly had a really good arm. Obviously, it wasn't very reined in because he was supposed to not be running that offense. He did have a good arm, though. It's the same thing with like Jamal Lord. He had a good arm. He just didn't know how to throw it. But he had the ability to kind of run. So maybe I could get those two in a situation where I could pop a couple runs and, maybe we can gash them with a 25-yard pass. But at the same time, I only got 2 minutes. I'm scared. I'm scared for my life with any of these. I always have had a soft spot for Joe Daly, though. I don't know why. I've always kind of liked Joe Daly. I don't know if anybody agrees with that. They probably don't. Maybe Joe Daly is my pick. We're going Joe Daly.
I'm not familiar with half of that list. I gotta, because I'm too young to remember a couple of those. Riker Fife and Harburg are the only two I.
You don't remember Joe Daly? How old are you?
I'm 25.
So that makes you born in what year?
99.
So yeah,
I would have been 5.
You would have been very young. Wow.
I didn't get into Nebraska football until like the Bill Callahan 07 year.
Huh. Interesting.
So I would say
so you don't even know about the legend of Joe Daly.
Nope.
Interesting.
Not fully aware.
Interesting. I'll take Joe. I'll take Joe Daly. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Joe Daly. Thank you for the question, Venmo Chris. We appreciate that. By the way, short side option writes in on my dynasty that I'm rolling with right now. Yeah, I just got beat by Michigan last night. I got USC this week. It's gonna be rough. I got a bunch of recruits coming into town. It's gonna be hard. So hopefully you can get to a bowl. I just want you to get to 3 wins at this point. Yeah, I might get fired. This might be over.
Electing to play Heisman right off the bat is
You have to just immerse yourself, and then you get better from there. You figure it out.
I mean, All American is reasonable because it's like the old Heisman from the previous games, and
it's hard.
And what I've heard about
hard.
Heisman in this game is a lot more extreme than all Madden from the Madden games.
Oh, it's way harder than that. Yeah,
like
it
the
is
AI
hard.
is so advanced in that game.
Yeah, it is. It is. Really,
what is the average score margin?
I try and chew the clock and run the ball because that's my only option to win games.
Just not to make it look as bad.
I'm trying to win, but I know my path to winning is to limit the possessions as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
So if you turn the ball over, you're just hosed.
Yeah.
That's not that far off of how Minnesota actually plays. So that's kind of based in reality there. I lost by 1 to Iowa. I lost 21-20 to Iowa. That was sad. I lost by 17 to Michigan. And I lost by 2 touchdowns to North Carolina.
Okay, those are reasonable scores.
And I barely beat FCS East, who was running the triple option.
What's the mascot for those teams?
They were the astronauts,
not the pandas.
They were the astronauts. Yep. So there's your update on my NCAA dynasty. All right, thanks for playing the Tweet Bag. We'll come back with more next on 1620 The Zone. First of all, Venmo Chris, thanks for the question about bad Nebraska quarterbacks you're playing with your life on the line. He also writes and he says, Connor playing the college football game with the tried and true Iowa strategy. I respect it. Hey, look, you got to do what you got to do to win football games, man. This is my only option. It's my only option at this point. Also, just one more quick one from John. Is having your first child when you are having it bad timing because football is starting, or perfect timing because you're going to have time off and newborns sleep a lot, which allows you to play more of the stupid video game? I'm going to answer TBD on that one. I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, you got Big Red overreaction too in that equation.
Yeah. Well, I'll be fine. I'll be back for that.
And we know one of the hosts can't stay up past 10:30.
Yeah. People have very, when the the schools in the Big Ten put in all of their I always forget this word, but all their rules as far their allowances as far as like what they want from the conference. They're asking the conference, hey, please don't let us do this. Hey, we don't want to play on Friday nights. Hey, we don't want to play night games in November or whatever. Yeah, I guess we all have that for Big Red overreaction as well. All right. By the way, one on Joe Daly is from Amazing Daniel. So I think the Joe Daly soft spot comes in part that he stuck around and tried to take on an offense that he wasn't recruited to play in, and he did a respectable job. He and Jamal Lord were in the toughest spots for different reasons, and two of my odd favorites for sure. Yeah, I would bring those two up in very, very similar light, similar conversation. So give me, at least I could say, if Joe kills me, if Joe murders me, because he throws an interception or we don't end up scoring a touchdown, at least I'll say, you know what, I went down. I went down with my guy, and that's Joe Daly. All right, Greg Sankey. He's the commissioner of the SEC. He's the most powerful man in college athletics. He's one of the most powerful people in sports in general. A lot of things to say. This is from a story from Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports. You touch on a kind of a variety of different topics with him. Obviously, it's a lot of big picture stuff. The topic of expansion came up as well. There doesn't seem to be much interest that is purposeful. You're throwing out Clemson and Florida State, potentially trying to move conferences and get out any way they can. Obviously, they would love their landing spots to be either in the Big Ten or the SEC. And the Big Ten and the SEC commissioners have said, we'll hear this from the Big Ten commissioner next week at Media Days. They'll say, I don't really think so. Don't need it. How much money do we need to be chasing is something that's kind of come up. Sankey said, quote, there's frustration with presidents, coaches, and athletic directors over the last couple of years. I say, I get it. You're frustrated when there is change and there is frustration. It's now. Let's pursue new ideas. Any of the ideas identified could actually be decided within a conference or a collection of conferences. It's not clear to me why people feel like they need to cede authority to an outside entity when they can make decisions, talking about the necessity to have a more even and equal governing body. The idea of 9 conference games comes up in this situation as well. But basically what we get from Sankey here is, I don't know how much more we need to do at this point. I like what I got from Sankey was, I like this conference's ability to be the most profitable conference, and it pays out at schools. It's a place where people want to be. I think in Sankey's mind, they have reached a sweet spot. I think they're a little beyond it, but a sweet spot in between the things that make college football and college athletics cool and great, which is history and tradition and, pageantry, whatever, like all that stuff, regional rivalries. And what we are headed down the path of, which is this kind of corporatized, look, there's going to be private equity money that comes into the sport, and everybody's going to be in the same conference, or there will be 30 teams in a conference, and everybody will be making billions and billions of dollars a year. All that's stopping these conferences from doing that is just a choice. It's just a choice. And so Sankey said this: the notion that money is a solution to our current situation actually should be seen as more of a threat. In a system going through upheaval, just inserting a bunch of money does not resolve the issues at the core of upheaval. Dellinger writes, but no one, not even Sankey, is under the belief that these external pressures are all negative. They will and have incited necessary change. He's in the midst of exploring opportunities with his membership. Quote, it's clear that schools have been approached. They're talking about from the SEC. I've gotten phone calls where they are approached. We have strengthened relationships here where we have candid dialogue within our conference. I don't think the outside ideas will stop. As I understand the reality of what's presented, we can make every one of those decisions on our own. Interesting to hear Sankey say that. I love that first line. The notion that money is a solution to our current situation where it actually should be seen as more of a threat. Love it. I mean, what a comforting thing to hear from the commissioner. Now you can look at that and roll your eyes and say, this is the commissioner of the richest conference that prints money and could do whatever it wanted at any time. But it's interesting to hear that he's in the, I'm not going to go as far to say as like he's got this kind of moral compass, but he clearly feels some sort of connection to where we have been in college football and where it kind of comes from. And once again, he's like almost completely and totally in charge of where it goes next. And he's like, I'm not interested. That's comforting. That's actually really nice to hear. I think we're going to have, I had that segment a couple of weeks ago when I came on. I was like, you know what? I don't feel that bad right now. I kind of like this. Maybe we're headed somewhere different, but this is not the worst thing in the world. It feels fresh at the moment. And as long as we all say, all right, this is where we're at right now. I've accepted that things have changed and everything's a lot different than it used to be, then you could probably get along with how the sport looks going forward. There was a couple more interesting things down the line here in this story, and it was the idea that the SEC would move to 9 conference games. Dellinger writes, in another potential revenue-generating move, the proposal to add a 9th SEC football game has been reintroduced as a topic on the administrative agenda. Those programs who were at first against adding a 9th conference game are more interested now in doing so, according to multiple administrators at conference schools. A way to enhance schedules with bigger matchups and generate more cash through ticket sales, as well as the television contract with ESPN. Any decision is expected next year after officials watch the first expanded college football playoff play out. Sankey said, quote, we will use that as a learning experience and see how the CFP committee evaluates competition rather than doing analytics to predict. That sets the timing for the first quarter of the year. So it's interesting. He goes from, I don't really mind where we're sitting right now, and all this private equity money could be really, really damaging to the sport, and who knows what's next. And then also say, oh yeah, by the way, the people that run our schools in our conference are saying that they want to play. They will now go to 9 games because they've seen the light. Well, it's not because they've seen the light. It's because their TV deal gets bigger when they make it. So it's like, it's not out of the goodness of their heart, right? But at the same time, how big of a change is that considering the Big Ten is already at 9 games? Like, that's something where you could just say, okay, you want to equal out the TV deal, and you have these schools who are now all concerned about their X million of dollars that they're going to have to pay athletes now. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to play an extra conference game and then recoup some of that money from the TV deal, doing it that way. So that was just a few of the things there. I encourage people to kind of read that on Yahoo Sports. Ross Dellinger with a kind of interesting piece and a check-in on the SEC commissioner. I guess I'll get you a couple more quotes. Where does it end? Was the question. According to one leader, Sankey, the industry for so long resistant to change We must look inward and do just that, change. Quote, you had a system perceived as working pretty well. Not perfect. There is no perfect. We are in the classic idea of great is the enemy of good, Sankey said. It's hard to change when you think something works well and it's a historic model and when you're in a higher education system. As we walk through this, don't cede authority to making decisions. We should take ownership. So, not sure where that puts us from Sankey. And the question, yeah, right. Like Ms. Daniel writes in on Twitter right now. Do you believe them though, or is this posturing? They had a lot of people believing that they weren't going to add more Pac-12 schools after USC and UCLA too. They did, and I don't know. I'm not going to like straight up take them at their word for it. Hey, we're not going to add any more schools, and then bang, they situations change very, very rapidly. But like, I'm trying to look at this functionally, and I'm thinking, okay, are those schools going to have? Are the schools in the Big Ten and the SEC going to have so much issues paying their players that they feel like they need to introduce the boogeyman, aka private equity money, into these individual conferences so they can recoup that back because they'd be poor otherwise? Now, I get it. People who have money always want more money. But at the same time, I think what they've been telling us about the idea of they have these $20 million line items coming in, and we have to prepare for this, and we have to be really proactive. I actually don't think the major programs in college football, it affects them as much from a monetary standpoint as much as they would lead you to believe. I think they've overshot that part. I think they've told us that, hey, basically, we're going to be poorer than we're used to, so we need more money. No, you're just poorer than you're used to. I think Trev, I hate to bring him up in this conversation, I guess, but like Trev got it right. Trev said a couple weeks ago at the meetings, he was like, "Hey, we got a spending problem here. Everything that we do, if there's just new legislation that comes down and there's rule changes that comes down that we have to pay X amount of dollars a year to student athletes, we can recoup that money and we can make it up in other places and other things that we already do in the athletic department. And we could cut salaries in places, and we can, tamp this down in the sport, whether it's coaches' salaries or whatever it might be. Like we can do that. I appreciate that approach from him because I think, I think that's closer to the truth than anything that we've kind of heard. All right, quick timeout. Couple more minutes on the other side. Robin Washer will join us after that. Anything from you guys? We'd like to hear it as well. We'll come back with more on 1620 The Zone. Robin Washa will join us here in just a couple minutes. We'll talk some hoops and football with him. I realize we haven't talked much about Husker football today. That's okay. It's July 17th. We'll have plenty of time. I haven't even complained that much about the All-Star Game uniforms yet. You guys should be proud of me. I said what I needed to say.
I'm proud of you, Connor.
Thank you, Joey. I appreciate that. And we got some people around the city who are looking for gumball machines for us.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. It's very, very nice. Quickly here, before we get to Robin, ESPN came out with their list of I'll explain to you how they got here. Top 10 quarterbacks for 2024. This is what we're talking about. It's list time. So they surveyed league executives, coaches, scouts, and then their own kind of opinions on to this as well, the people from ESPN. And to nobody's surprise, they had Patrick Mahomes at number one. I think, are we respecting the Chiefs today? We're all agreeing that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL?
I would say so.
Okay, good. I'm glad you didn't have any dissension to that one. I'll just go through the list here real quick and we can pick out some things. Burrow at 2, Josh Allen at 3, Lamar Jackson at 4, Stafford at 5, Herbert at 6, Stroud at 7, Rodgers at 8, Goff at 9, Dak at 10, and then honorable mentions Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Tua, Kirk Cousins, and Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence almost left off the list entirely, didn't even get honorable mention after being in the top 10 last year. He was number 8 so last year certainly did not help him. A couple guys I want to pick out here. There is definitely an ongoing conversation right now about Joe Burrow's place in the league. Not about whether he's going to stay in the league, obviously, but what is he? He gets treated like a star. He gets talked about like a star. He is a star, but how good is he? And the fact of the matter is he's been hurt for the last 2 years. He still stays on this list at number 2. You would think after really back-to-back years of being hurt, or I guess, yeah, really back-to-back for a portion of them, that the stock on him, or at least the enthusiasm to keep him as one of the league's 2 best quarterbacks would have waned a little bit, but it hasn't. I find that interesting. I'm not saying that he's bad. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be even at number 2, but I do think this is kind of a big year for him. Whatever that means. I think it's a big year for him. And then he was hurt at the beginning of his career, obviously as well. Last year just never really got off the ground for him. An NFL executive said on Burrow, quote, "Burrow is still probably the most consistent of all the guys. A pure thrower who's in complete command of the offense, who comes up in big moments. He knows when to attack and be aggressive versus when to take the easy yards. And the dude is so tough." Hard to disagree with any of that. I don't like I said, who would I put in that spot instead of him? It's you could make the case for any one of the guys behind him, but I'm fine with having him there.
I think the number 2 spot is dependent on who you can trust the most to defeat Patrick Mahomes in a duel, and Burrow's proven to do that when he went to Arrowhead a couple years ago and defeated the Chiefs. So
he's the only guy to do it.
Yeah, he's the only guy to do it to beat Mahomes in a big time moment.
Him and Brady.
Him and Brady, but Brady's no longer in the league.
Who is where's Burrow at on your list, by the way?
I have him at number 2. I base it off on just trusting a quarterback to beat the Chiefs in a shootout.
Yeah, that's not a bad criteria to have. Allen at 3. I'm sorry. Josh Allen at 3. I was looking at last year's list for a second. Lamar Jackson at 4. By the way, at 4 last year was Aaron Rodgers, who got hurt immediately and then dropped, but still in the top 10 on this list. A couple more guys that I want to talk about. Obviously, Lamar, who was the league's MVP last year, comes in at number 4, and you might think, wow, that's interesting. Nobody had him at number 1. Mm-hmm. Highest ranking was number 2. his lowest ranking, and every single person who voted on the survey from ESPN had him in between 2 and 5. I thought it would be a little bit more erratic than that, but we have now come into a nice place on Lamar, which is everybody agrees that he's one of the best 3, 4, 5 dudes in the NFL. He could win an MVP on any given year. They're a really good team. And there's not this conversation about him like, is he a quarterback or is he even good? Like that hasn't been around in a long time. So I think we're in a nice spot with him. He's a good, consistent quarterback. He goes about his business differently. And he has a stigma attached to him because he came into the league as a way, way, way less developed passer than any of these other guys. But he's gotten better at it. Like it's hard to ignore, right? So he's made do with what he has, and that's saying the least. Stafford still at 5. Somebody had him at 3. Obviously, he checks a lot of the boxes that Burrow did. He's like an older Burrow, you know? He's tough. He makes all the throws. Everybody loves him. He's got a star quality to him.
He makes smart decisions on the field, too.
But he is 36.
Yeah, that's hard to believe.
He is 36.
I feel old now.
A high-ranking official with an NFL team said, quote, he elevates the play of the people around him. Puka Nacua is a good player. He's not the same guy without Stafford. He helps those guys reach their potential. Herbert is another guy who gets talked about a lot. Very polarizing guy as Justin Herbert. Comes in at number 6. Joey, where do you have him? Off the top 10?
Justin Herbert.
Are you a Justin Herbert hater or are you a Justin Herbert guy?
I was so high on him, I would blame it on Brandon Staley for them not
I tend to
overcoming.
Agree. I tend to side in that direction.
Overcoming the expectations. So I have him as an honorable mention off the top 10 list.
Interesting.
As right now.
So the spread on him went, somebody ranked him as high as 3, and at least one person did not have him in the top 10 at all.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Not surprising that he had the biggest, gosh, you know what? He didn't actually have the biggest spread on this list. I'll tell you who that is.
2 of the guys on the list I don't have in my top 10. Herbert's one of them.
Who's the other?
Can you guess?
Stroud?
No, not him.
Rodgers.
One more guess.
Dak?
Yes.
Yeah. Dak came in at number 10.
Yeah.
On this list.
I have him off the list.
Yeah, that I could absolutely see that. Somebody had Stroud at 2, and somebody ranked Stroud out of the top 10. Is there a world where you could convince me that CJ Stroud isn't one of the 10 best guys that I'd like to have on my team right now in the NFL? No. There is not. And I understand that last year was his first year. He appeared on 90% of the ballots, and a few of the voters believe he's a top 3 guy already. A veteran NFC scout said, quote, he's as good as anybody, honestly. He's got to do it again, but the arm talent combined with taking care of the ball and the ability to process was impressive. Yeah, a lot of this stuff, like, you know, people will always point to stats and they'll say, look, this guy did this. You know, we're talking about splitting the differences between the top 3, the top 5, and the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just about feel. That's what was so difficult about Lamar in the first several years of his career, because he would do amazing things, and then he would have these lapses in judgment or horrible throws or whatever it was. You'd be like, what? Why can't I do it with this guy?
Another player I could think of.
Stroud did not do that last year. By the way. Stroud was all the way together.
Another player that's similar to Lamar, as you mentioned, Josh Allen. I thought Josh Allen was rated high on the list. I have him outside the top 5 at number 6.
Whoa. Okay.
Just one of those guys I really can't trust in the big time moments. He hasn't won the big time awards as Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes has.
I wonder if we aren't getting closer and closer to having Josh Allen come up in a conversation of like, boy, he's dying out there. You know, they've won a lot of games and they've won a lot of playoff games over the past couple of years. They can't get over this hill that the Chiefs have presented them with. But he's lost pieces year by year by year. The defense is undergoing some changes and changeover.
He's lost 2 receivers as well.
Yeah, he's lost a lot around him, and it just keeps getting more and more and more on his shoulders. And so maybe the conversation pops up with him, the narrative pops up with him of like, okay, there's Do we need to get him out of there? In order to experience the full Josh Allen, do we need to get him out of there? And what would that do for his career? Interesting. Yeah. Good one from Mason Daniel. We could definitely do this. Add a short weekly segment and review that quarterback list every Tuesday, juxtaposed to how they performed. It would change every 10 seconds. There's no doubt about it. Coming back, one guy I did not see on this list. He did not make any appearances. Daniel Jones. That is the quarterback of the team that Robin Washut roots for, and he joins us next on 1620 The Zone.
The biggest basketball coaching convention of
and work on your skill set while you listen.
What?
You don't want them there.
What is going on? Robin, are you okay?
Robin Washington.
Are your kids near you, or what just happened?
Husker Online.
I took a lot of preparation to make this thing a flawless interview, and clearly I still can't avoid it.
Robin Washington, Husker Online.
Maybe it was aliens. Maybe it was a phenomenon that we can't explain.
The Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
All right, we're joined in the 42 Degrees Source Hotline by Robin Washington of HuskerOnline.com. Robin, hello. How are you?
What's up, Con?
So have you gotten the video game, or do you have a console still, or what's the update on that for you?
I have a console, but it's I think 2 generations of the PlayStation behind. So in order to play the new game, I would have to buy a PS5 and figure out basically how to play video games all over again, because it's been a while. I'll admit it.
I found it to be very difficult, by the way. Yeah.
I'm getting that sense from a lot of my peers in my age demographic that things don't come quite as naturally as they did 15 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's a little different. All right, Robin. So Fred Hoiberg talked yesterday. Interesting. Anything good that first pops into your head? I got a couple questions for you about just like the roster and how they're going to handle things. But did anything jump out to you from Fred yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of how the evolution of what this team is going to look like is coming along, and just the differences that the personnel is going to kind of necessitate. Just for one, they have different things that they can do with this group and things that they can't do from the past 2 years. And I guess a lot of that starts with the front court, particularly Rink Mast not being out. That changes a lot of how they've operated out of the post the last 2 seasons with Rink, and then going back to Derek Walker. Now they have a guy in Andrew Morgan that I think they feel could do a lot of similar things, especially with the basketball, in terms of getting to the rim and creating shot opportunities in the paint with Andrew Morgan. But Morgan certainly isn't the shooter that Rink was. I don't know if he's quite the passer that Rink was. He's a good passer, but I don't know if he's going to be leading the team in assists like the last 2 fives that came through here did. So that inherently is going to make them operate a little differently in the half court. And then kind of right along with that is the fact that for the first time in a long time, they don't have just a veteran point guard. They got 2 of them. And when you have true point guards that can, handle the ball and facilitate the offense and do things kind of in a more traditional manner, that kind of changes a little bit how you do things that way too. So I think the fact that they don't have Rink and the fact that they have 2 veteran point guards that have played a lot of basketball at the high major level in Raleigh Wooster and Aaron Eulis will be probably the biggest differences between how this team plays and how the last 2 seasons went. But at the same time, they're not going to completely scrap the formula that got them to where they were at the end of last season. I think you're still going to see the Fred Hoiberg elements of pace and transition offense and that trapping style of defense. But even beyond just what they do offensively, they got a guy in Braxton Mia that Fred Hoiberg's probably never had a guy like that at the 5 spot, a 7-1 shot blocker that is going to change the way they play defensively when he's on the court. They're probably not going to trap and double the post as much as they have, because they kind of had to do that out of necessity because they didn't have a true rim protector. Well, they got one now when Mia's on the floor. And so that'll be just as interesting as what they do offensively is, when they have Braxton in there, maybe they go, a little bit more perimeter heavy with how they defend the 3, just because they have the luxury of having a bona fide shot blocker down there under the rim. So just that was kind of the most fascinating thing for me, was just how this picture is kind of starting to paint itself through the early parts of summer workouts. And as they start to get guys back on the floor, they're still not fully complete yet. And they just started doing live full and half court work, I believe, last week. So they're just scratching the surface on this, but it's still very interesting to me, just kind of how this new picture of this roster is going to look compared to the last 2 years.
So they have, there's positives and negatives with this. I've talked about this with the schedule, and we did last week. Like there's good and bad to not really playing anybody in your non-con schedule. Maybe you get some wins. There's good and bad to having it's still really, really early, obviously, but the way it looks is they have like a bunch of players, and they're going to have some depth, and they're going to have a little bit more versatility it seems, this year. But the downside is you got to figure out, okay, who's our guys. I wonder how that'll come to fruition. Obviously, Bryce Williams and Juwan Gary kind of lead the way there.
Mm-hmm.
Not only you figure out who's the guys, but also who's going to play. I think that'll be an important part of this summer.
Yep, and a lot like last year too, where they were in a very similar situation. I guess the difference now is that you do know who you've guys that have been there and done that, not just at the Big Ten level, but at Nebraska. And I think that's a nice luxury to have. That at least that part of it is answered. Like you've got guys that have, been in probably as difficult of situations as you're going to see this year, and done pretty well. And so you can build around that as opposed to having to just try to find an entirely new nucleus and start from scratch. So at least they're a little bit further ahead in that process than maybe they have been in previous years. But that's the number one challenge right now for staff, isn't just figuring out how these pieces are going to work together, but like you said, who are going to be the guys that, like, who cares about starting? Like, who are going to be the guys that you lean on at the under 4 timeout in a one possession game in a critical Big Ten contest on the road? Like, those are the things that, you're trying to figure it out right now, but you won't know until you start playing games. And I do think that that's part of their thinking with how they scheduled in the non-con, was to give themselves a little bit of breathing room to figure some of that stuff out. Now, obviously playing Bethune-Cookman and, Southern and those types isn't going to test you too much, or at least it shouldn't, but at least it gives you under the lights, live action evaluation to just see how guys respond, and not just, individually, but how they work together and what combinations on the court click and what don't. And just to have that opportunity to figure those things out in what should be, and knock on wood, comfortable victories, is, I think, a big part of, I know a lot of people weren't exactly thrilled with the non-conference slate, but I think that's a big reason why they scheduled the way they did was for that very point.
By the way, you mentioned Southern. It feels like Nebraska's played Southern probably like 7 to 10 times over the last 20 years. Is this true?
It's at least the third time that I can remember, and probably more than that going back to it. But I just, they're one of those teams that I don't know, that like,
they just always pop up.
Yeah, they've just kind of made a home in Nebraska, and I don't know if they're playing anybody else regionally, but a lot of those, like, schools like that, they go around and just kind of make the tour and earn their check for the year, take their lumps, and then get ready for conference play. So it's a win-win. Especially, I don't know if you've seen the payments that have gone out for some of these bye games. Like,
no.
I'm pretty sure like every one of Nebraska's bye games was at least $100,000 check. And in some cases more, like anywhere from 100,000 to 115,000. So I don't know if like the going rate for these games is going, because it's not just Nebraska overpaying. Like, they're like college basketball scheduling handles that I follow, and they put the agreements, the contract agreements for these games out, and it seems like almost every one of them, like the low games, are around 90,000. So these schools that are going around making these tours against these high majors, they're getting a pretty good payday out of it. So, I guess a win-win for everybody.
Hey, when's the next Burke game?
Today.
Oh, let's go.
Like 20 minutes.
Oh my
1:30. And I think you can stream it on YouTube. The Nebraska basketball account just tweeted out a link if you want to stream it.
Nice.
So, and this one counts. They're out of group play. This is the actual bracket. I want to say they play Lithuania. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Some European team. But
nice.
Then we'll see how far they can go. But somebody early on our message board asked if Turkey gets bounced early, will that expedite Berkey's return to Lincoln? No, he's going to still come back at the start of the fall semester in August, because basically Nebraska they practice their second phase of summer workouts through July, and then they get pretty much most of August off, and then they come back. They come back for the start of the fall semester and kind of get oriented with classes, and then official practices start in September. So the plan still, no matter what happens with Turkey in this tournament, is for Burke to be here close to the start of the fall semester in August.
Robin Washington of Husker Online is with us. Okay, let's switch over to football. You wrote a little preview for the wide receiver group for today on Husker Online. So we've talked a lot about Banks and Nair and what they'll add to the room, and obviously it's a ton. But what do you think needs to happen with the group that kind of was forced into it last year, like Lloyd and Coleman and, Alex Bullock into that conversation as well. Obviously, Garcia Castaneda is probably in there too, and he was hurt last year.
Mhm.
Like, what does the situation look like for them? Is it more advantageous for them going into this year? And how much do they kind of, rely on that experience that they were able to get last year?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, even if Malachi, I think he played like the final 6 games, or at least really played over the last 6 games, and he did some good things. And I think that there's certainly confidence and momentum you can build upon that. Now, obviously, he kind of had a bit of a setback with his shoulder injury that forced him to miss some of spring ball, but I think by all accounts he's bigger and stronger than he even was last year. So he brings an element kind of like Nayor that Nebraska just doesn't have a lot of, and could be a real luxury in that receiver rotation. So there's great opportunity in front of Malachi Coleman. And then Jalen Lloyd, he did something that only one other receiver in college football did with his 350-yard plus touchdowns. And so he showed that dynamic ability. He can be a game changer. Now the goal is, and Garrett McGuire on the Huskers Radio Network talked about this last night, the thing that they're really pushing for him is not just to be a one-trick pony. They want to make him an every down receiver that can play all 3 positions and really be kind of one of those versatile pieces that they covet so much in that room, and really evolve his skill set. And so far, based off what he did this spring, I think that he's well on track to doing that. And you hear the coaches talk about Jalen Lloyd. They see the potential there that could really blossom, starting as early as this year. So those 2 guys in particular. But then, people just kind of write off Alex Bullock, but he only was the team receiver leader in snaps played last year, and he was getting catches, second yards, and was arguably their most consistent player at that position last season. And so he's a veteran guy that Garrett McGuire said could run the receiver meetings if he wanted to, just because he knows the offense so well. And guys like that just find their way onto the field. Now, with the added firepower they have at the position, we'll see what kind of role there is there. But that's just it's such a nice piece to have a guy like that in the rotation, for one, just for the consistency he brings, but 2, to help bring those young guys along with the coaches. And then maybe most intriguing guy to me, especially after listening to McGuire, is Garcia Castaneda, where
we don't talk about him at all.
He's not only full strength, coming off that knee injury that he suffered against Minnesota last year, but they said he's up to 198 pounds now, and was clocked at 22 miles per hour on their GPS running testing. So he's cooking, and he's got some muscle on him too. So this is a guy that was an opening day starter 2 years ago, and was playing and was firmly in that rotation last year under Matt Rule. And if he can stay healthy, he's a 2019 recruit, so he's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of experience and has been around the game a long time. And if he can stay healthy, that's another veteran option that they have that is going to be probably hard to keep off the field. So the good news is they got a lot of options in that room. Again, kind of like with our basketball discussion. Now the hard part for the staff is figuring out how many guys can they realistically play in order to maximize the players at the top of that rotation.
Is there enough room for anyone else to make a move in that room with all those guys that we just named?
If there's one guy, for me, it's Ja'Cory Barney. And I would encourage you to go back and listen to the McGuire interview, because he was asked just a broad question about the freshman class, and he's like, I'll start with Ja'Cory Barney. And he said he just got something to him, and he's got some, he said, swagger.
Love
to
when
him.
coaches say that.
Yep. He's one of those Miami guys that isn't afraid of anything, and he's a burner, and just shows that he's extremely dynamic with the ball in his hands. With his kick return in the spring game, some of the catches he made. He's got some catching up to do, just in terms of learning the offense and adjusting this game. But talent's talent, and when you have as much of that as Ja'Cory Barney does, and the swagger and the unwavering confidence to go along with that, guys like that tend to vault up the depth chart pretty quickly. So of that freshman class, he is certainly the one that I'd keep my eye on the closest.
Remember when Isaiah Garcia I just pulled up this game. You were there. Isaiah Garcia Castaneda caught the first touchdown of the year 2022, and then
I do.
Basically, that
And
was
then-
it. He hasn't really done anything else at all since then.
Yeah, he like fell out of grace. I don't know. I just stopped getting the ball. I don't know what happened there. The 2022 season, and then
Got hurt.
He transferred, came back. got
Oh,
hurt.
that's right. Yeah. He went in the portal
Yeah, he hit
in
the portal,
October
came
and then
back.
came out after the season ended.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting ride for that guy. But like I said, I mean, his position coach is talking pretty highly of him, and if he's pushing 200 and running 22 miles per hour, there's something to work with there.
Robin Washut of HuskerOnline.com. All right, Robin, appreciate it as always, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good, man. See you.
Robin Washut, HuskerOnline.com. Yeah, good little rundown there. Garrett McGuire's interview on the network the other night was relatively illuminating. I just had to go back to that game and pull up the stats and the score just to make sure I didn't imagine that Isaiah Garcia Castaneda really did catch a 32-yard touchdown pass from Casey Thompson for Nebraska to take a 7-0 lead in the Northwestern game in Ireland.
Didn't he get over 100 yards receiving in that game?
Yeah, so didn't he also notably fumble in that game? I know basically everything that wasn't the onside kick is not memorable from that game, but I'm pretty sure he had an important fumble. Yes, he did. So Nebraska was up. They got up 14-3. And then Northwestern answers and it's 14-10. Nebraska gets the ball back. They're having a nice drive. And he was like, I believe he was about to score. And he fumbled. Garcia Castaneda. Maybe that had something to do with why he fell out of grace in the 2022 Ireland game.
And that was early in the second quarter, too.
And that was early in the second quarter. Yep. Yeah. It feels like it was a long time ago. And it was.
Yeah, 2 years gone by.
All right. Back after this on 1620 The Zone. As Robin said, you can watch, if you're a Nebraska basketball sicko, you can watch Berke from Terke take on Lithuania at 1:30 on YouTube. They're on the same channel as we are, Joey. It's really
excellent.
It's great company to be in. Great company at the U20 Eurobasket. Quickly here before we get out of here, get to the polls and tell you what to watch. I've been wanting to kind of spend a couple minutes on this. So Pick Six Previews had their college football playoff. Brett had his college football playoff predictions go out. And we're getting very, very close to the time of the year where there's going to be college football playoff predictions. As I have, this is like a long-term prediction for me. Like I said, somebody's going to put Nebraska in the realm of this. I'm not saying that somebody's going to pick Nebraska to go to the playoff. That's some weird aggregator Twitter account probably will, but somebody's going to pick Nebraska to be like in the realm of this. Somebody's going to write that Nebraska is a dark horse candidate for the college football playoff. And then if there's enough of those stories, somebody will actually predict Nebraska to go to the college football playoff. Not in this one. Although I think Brett is pretty high on Nebraska this year, like most experts are. Georgia out of the SEC, auto buy. Ohio State out of the Big Ten, auto buy. Utah out of the Big 12, auto buy. Miami out of the ACC, auto buy.
Wow.
A lot of people love Florida State. A lot of people are like, Clemson, maybe. Miami.
So curious question, Connor. Are the top 4 seeds conference champions?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Not the 4 best, just the conference champs.
Okay, that makes sense.
They are the 4 highest ranked conference champions, so the only world in which it's not one of those 4 conferences is if Boise State is like number 5 in the country and a 7-5 team wins the ACC.
Okay, so then
or something like that,
then
which will never happen because there's no more. The divisions are canceled.
Okay, that makes sense. So that means the at-large will be based on ratings, I'm guessing.
Indeed.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
that's how the other spots are decided. The other from the Big Ten, you have Ohio State getting a bye after winning the Big Ten. Penn State makes the college football playoff. Oregon makes the college football playoff. Remember, Oregon's in the Big Ten. And so those would be the 3 representatives. From the SEC, you got Georgia. And then you got Alabama. You got Texas. And you got Ole Miss from the SEC. So you get 4 in from the SEC. And then there is Notre Dame. Then there is the group of 5's Boise State. And then there is Florida State and Miami from the ACC. So how basically he broke it down was 4 SEC, 3 Big Ten, 2 ACC, and then a hodgepodge of whatever else was out there. 2 Big 12, 1 group of 5, 1 independent. I can't wait to see how this all plays out. I can't wait to see the effect that it has on the sport. And I can't wait to see, like, when we get to October 28th or November 14th or something like that, who we're still talking about that could potentially make the playoff. Maybe it's a team like Nebraska. Nebraska has a halfway decent chance to start off 7-0. Like, they're going to, if they start off even remotely close to that, they're going to be ranked in the top 25. Like, if they start off 7-0, 6-1, or probably 5-2, depending on who they lose to, they're going to be in the neighborhood of the rankings at that point. And then you kind of let it play out from there. Obviously, it's a ton more difficult. But, like Kansas. This one didn't blow anybody away because these are all power programs generally. It wouldn't surprise anybody if all these teams made the playoff. But people like Kansas, people are high on North Carolina this year. People are high on Rutgers this year. Rutgers has so Rutgers, I was looking at them yesterday, and I do have a thing to say about Rutgers that we still haven't got to. Rutgers is like the biggest fan in the world of Tony Petitti right now Because you know what Tony Petitti did to Rutgers? He told them, here you go, guys. The Big Ten East and West are canceled, and everybody's just in the same division now. And so Rutgers had to play Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan every single year without reprieve. Guess what they don't have to do this year? Play any of them.
Play those teams.
They don't have to play any of them. I don't know how they even got that
That's
break.
amazing.
Rutgers doesn't play a single one of Ohio State, Penn State, or Michigan this year. They play, they go to Nebraska. They play USC and UCLA. They go to USC, so that'll obviously be a tough game. And that's really it. There's nothing else that Minnesota, Rutgers. There's no other game that Rutgers can't win on their schedule. There's actually, point blank period, no game that Rutgers can't win on their schedule, with the possible exception of USC. Like, that doesn't mean that they're going to go undefeated. They're obviously not. But that's going to be a team that could win as many as 10 games. We're in the neighborhood of a playoff team, right? So I can't wait to have those conversations as the year goes on. But yeah, Rutgers, Tony Petitti, handshake meme. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back with the polls. We'll tell you what to watch on 1620 The Zone. Phil's at Happer Show on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed. Just one today. Should a fart be flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct because it is, quote, offending to the senses?
I said yes.
Depends on the context. Depends on the context. If we're sitting here in this room and we're locked in here for 4 hours, yes, that is very offending to the senses. If you're on a football field and some guy farts, you're probably like, it's okay. So I'm actually going to say no on this one. 59%, though, say yes. That was our one and only poll today. Joey, anything on television tonight? This is notoriously the day in which we will have the least amount of live sports on.
All
yeah.
day. Well, yeah, that's correct, Connor. But we do have Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever traveling to Dallas to take on the Wings tonight at 6:30 on ESPN.
Look at that.
And I know I mentioned this yesterday, and it's happening throughout the summer. No one cares about the NBA Summer League, but Baylor Shireman and the Celtics will take on the Charlotte Hornets today at 4:30 on the NBA TV.
Let's go. Maybe he'll dive into the crowd again.
Trey Alexander had a good game last night.
Trey did have a good game.
He had 18 for the Nuggets.
I saw some people in Denver who I follow because of my Nuggets fandom who were commenting on Trey, and they were like, "Hey, this guy can play."
Hey, we might get a Blue Jay to win the NBA Finals this time around.
Maybe
Shireman against Alexander.
I would sign up for that finals, Joey.
I know John Bishop too.
Elsewhere on television, we have that's Jeff Jarrett's outfit. Our dear friend Jeff Jarrett, All Elite Wrestling, AEW Dynamite on tonight, 7:00 TBS. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? That's right. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Hosted by not Regis Philbin, but by Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel hosts a revival of the popular game show, which features celebrity contestants playing for charity. Apparently, this is not new. They're just playing it on ABC tonight, and it happened in 2020. So Thank you. Everything's a rerun. Let's see.
I know what I'm watching tonight.
Probably the NBA Summer League, right?
No, I'm going to watch Beavis and Butthead tonight on Comedy Central.
All Beavis and Buttheads on Comedy Central.
Yeah, they're putting the new the Paramount episodes. They're calling them new, even though they were already released. But they're putting the season 2 episodes real late at night. I think 9:00 to 10.
Nice.
So if you want a good laugh,
wonder what's on. I wonder if we scrolled ahead just quickly here before we get out of here.
That's what I've been doing.
If I just
morning.
searched if I just went to the Big Ten Network and I went to if I just flipped on my television at 7:00 and it was on the BTN, what would be happening? It would be a Northwestern basketball classic from March 3rd of 2015.
That was from the season where they won their first tournament game.
Oh, I think it was that. This is earlier than that.
Earlier than that. I get my years mixed up.
The tournament win season wasn't that long ago, was it? Can I get some details here? Michigan at Northwestern, March 3rd, 2015.
Gotta look that up.
Yeah. March 3, 2015. Was this the game that they hit the long full court pass to what's his name? Pardon? No, because that would have been the NCAA tournament year. Nope. It just appears to be a random game.
Just a random good win.
It's a nice win for Northwestern. They won 82-78. Both teams were exactly 500. So that's what's on the BTN tonight. Enjoy.
There you go.
That is the show. Joey, it's been nice to sit in with you for a couple days.
Yes, a pleasure.
All right. That is it. If you missed anything, you can find it all on our website, 1620thezone.com. Crossovers next.